All right, hello everyone. We are now live. Welcome to the Booktube SFF Awards for 2017. You're here on my channel. I'm Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. We also have Adriana.
Hi, I'm Adriana from Perpetual Pages.
We have Connor.
Hi, my channel is Connor O'Brien.
We have Elena.
Hi, Eleanor reads books.
We have Elizabeth.
Hello, I'm the long absent Books and Pieces.
We have Kitty.
Hi, Caitlin from Kitty G.
And we have Sam.
Sam from Sam's Nonsense.
And we have Thomas.
Hi, from SFF1. I can say my own channel name, I promise. SFF 180.
So welcome. We are only missing one, but she will join us in spirit today. So hope you guys all are ready for us to talk about some nice SFF reads. So the first category that we have is short fiction. We only have a couple judges talking about that one, since not everyone was able to read all of them due to spoilery kind of content. So they are going to battle it out now. Let's see what happens.
That's not going to be much of a battle.
Yeah, it might be just like an agreement. So the different nominees for short fiction were, we had two Brandon Sandersons. The first was Mistborn Secret History. The other one was Edge Dancer. And then we had Every Heart a Doorway, which is by Sean Maguire. So those were our choices, which was slightly difficult because Sanderson Mistborn Secret History is a very spoilery book. In fact, it spoils a lot of the first trilogy, and it sort of sets up for a lot of spoilers to come as well. So it's not really an easy book to read if you haven't read all the other Sandersons, which is why a lot of our judges have not participated in this category. Edge Dancer is set in the Stormlight Archive world, and that one you can read as a standalone, but again, it does have minor spoilers. And then Every Heart Doorway is just a lovely book that you can all read, so that one's done well.
Did we all read Every Heart a Doorway?
Yeah, I did read that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe we'll start with that one then. Run down on what we think of it. Did everyone like it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I was immediate. I mean, it's getting a lot of attention with awards too, other awards.
Yeah.
You know,
It,
so that's
it
really
won
nice.
the
As in winning all of
Locust
them?
last night.
Yeah, it did. I saw that one. Look.
Nice.
I thought it was a little like underdeveloped, I guess, like the world, and I wanted more of the like going into these other places, but it was
Yes.
not. It kind of like switched gears and then went into like murder mystery.
A crime.
Has anyone read the second one? Doesn't that go into
I
like
love the second one.
the, like
I have the
it's
second
Jack
one.
and Jill type?
The second one definitely goes into more of the backstory from the other
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
So I feel like
It's more,
the more
just tells the specific tale of them, you know, like
exactly.
In the
certain
other world.
their individual
Yeah.
worlds, and yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I feel like as the verse expands, we're going to see more of those specific characters' backstories, like the full thing.
Yeah.
Which is
Different
cool.
worlds and stuff. Yeah, I would have liked it to be a full-size novel. I think almost everyone has said that, where they would have liked to have a ton of backstory in the first one with all the worlds and everything else. But I do like the kind of companion style as well, with just like very focused stories and on a certain person. Or
Do we know if she's written, like, did she write it all and they go, actually, this is 2,000 pages, it's a bit too much, and we'll cut it up? Or is she? Do we know if she's writing them as she goes
they're
along?
intentional novellas, because I think
Yeah.
they've only recently announced the third one. So yeah, I
Okay.
think it is
Yeah, that
intentionally
one's
a novella
January,
series.
yeah.
Yeah. Are there only going to be 3, do we know, or is it kind of up in the air?
Well, I
I
suspect
assume
that there
there could be more.
Yeah.
But yeah, just only 3 so far that we know and have, you know, actual release dates for. But I
Right.
suspect there will be quite a few more, and particularly with the first one, walking away with every award there is. It's
Yeah, true.
so.
Keep that going.
But will it get ours?
And Shannon likes her long series, right? I mean, like the
Yeah.
11th
Right.
October
Lots of
Day
long
book is coming
series.
out this fall, and how many encrypted novels they. So yeah, she likes her long running series. So
True.
I don't expect this to be any different.
So general consensus for Every Heart a Doorway was good.
Yeah,
Minor quibble over the ending with me and possibly Connor and a couple of other people, which doesn't bode well for its chances.
As you two are the voting.
As we're the ones voting.
Yeah, I'm just sort of
I would be
biting my tongue.
interested, seeing as you two are the ones voting, and I get the impression that maybe you're going for one of the other ones. I would be interested when you talk about them to find out if you would vote for whichever one you're voting for had you not read the whole of the backstory to get to that one. You said
No.
like it spoils Mistborn.
I
I'd be
wouldn't.
interested to see. I just think that's interesting. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, carry on.
Tell us about the Sanderson epic.
Okay, so shall we do Edge Dancer first? Because that one's a bit more approachable. So Edge Dancer follows one of the characters from Stormlight Archive, and it's kind of a little bit of backstory about her coming into her powers and discovering more about what they can do, and sort of it's like a journey that she takes, and you just sort of learn about more of her powers as she goes on this journey. It's not that long, but I mean, it's long for a novella. I liked it, but I didn't love it.
I really liked that one. I think it's because I think that I just really liked Lift as a character, and I think that I really liked how she the development that she went through during the course of it, because at the beginning she doesn't want any responsibility, and she just kind of runs from those things and runs from making connections and putting down roots, and that's kind of what her power is that she just slips by. But like throughout that story she had to not do that anymore, grow as a person and kind of put down a couple of roots. So I liked it. I mean, was it my favorite Sanderson? No, but I still think that it was really good.
What did you two sorry, just out of interest, what did you both rate Every Heart as a Doorway on Goodreads though when you rated it?
4 stars, I think.
I think it might have been 3.5 or 4.
And then what did you rate Edge Dancer?
4 stars.
4.
Okay, interesting.
So moving on.
I feel like she's keeping some statistics here.
I am.
Yeah, Eleanor's interviewing us all. Mistborn Secret History then. Can't really tell you too much about that one, but basically it involves the return of a character who a lot of people were happy to see, and there were a lot of big reveals in that story about the whole cosmos
universe
as a world. So it was very interesting for world building purposes. It was very interesting for kind of making you reevaluate things that had happened in the series up to this point, and thinking back and going, oh wait, that might have been something that's going to come in later on. And then with the addition of Stormlight books coming into it, there was definite links there. So basically, if you've read a lot of Sanderson, it's kind of like nerd heaven, because you can see all of these connections and you can see all these characters who are coming from different stories, and there's so much crossover that it's great.
Yeah,
it even crosses over with Elantris and stuff, so there's so much crossover.
I think it also crosses over with what is this graphic novel?
Oh yeah, White Sand.
White Sand. Yeah, it even brings that one into the whole story, and I think that it really did a good job of narrowing the universe, because they have all these different planets and they have all these different magic systems, but it does a good job of bringing them all together and showing you how it's capable, how people are capable of world jumping, which is what some of the characters in the books are able to do. So yeah. World building wise, that one is so freaking cool.
Excellent. So basically, I can't say much more than that, because I really don't want to spoil it for everyone in the chat. But it was my favourite of probably only comes second to The Emperor's Soul by Sanderson, which is my favourite. But after that, it's probably my favourite Sanderson novella, just because of how many things I was gasping and gushing over when I read it. And I feel like, Connor, were you in that massive buddy read that we did of it? I feel like you might have been.
I might have
been. It was a while ago. And there were so many moments where I was sat there with Lindsay and Sana when they were still doing Booktube stuff, and we were all just gushing oh my god, this is so good. Did you spot that? So it was a proper fangirl moment for me. So I had to give it 5 stars, and therefore it gets my vote. Sorry guys, I'm voting Sanderson.
But it's a very fan servicey story, is what you're saying.
Very fan.
Yeah. So I feel like I would have liked it if I would have read it had I read all the other.
I think you would once you've read everything else.
So it's kind of interesting, like we were talking about, and you can't be unbiased when you're judging, obviously, but it's kind of like, how do you compare a story that's brand new, that you're just learning about, to a story that has all this foundation of all of these books that you've probably spent years reading and all this stuff and all these connections? It's like, you can't. It's hard to compare those two, even though they're in the same category.
Yeah, definitely.
This is why the Hugos this year have tried to. They're testing out a best series award because they like everyone. Basically, it's accepted that second, third, fourth, 11th books in series just don't tend to win awards because people can't catch up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Connor? What did you think of it?
Of what? Of
Miss Bond's Secret. Which one gets your vote?
the Secret
I'm
History.
not trying to Secret History.
It's just, I mean, I think that it's something that Sam said was that I've read 16 or 18 books set in the Cosmere, so I have all that base, and then all of the characters that pop up in the Secret History. It just makes it that much better. So.
The other really fun thing about Secret History was it wasn't announced that it was coming until he just
Oh, that's funny.
And so everyone was like, oh my god, this is awesome. It's even better. It just turned up out the blue. So
are we revealing the popular vote after each category? Because I think might be quite interesting.
Yes. So I think you judges have unanimously gone for history. Given that they're the only ones that are voting. That's maybe a slightly swayed vote. So I can reveal to you the results of the popular vote, which are rather different in that Every Heart a Doorway stormed in first place, winning in a single pass, because we do instant runoff voting, where you can rank by preference and then your second preference comes in, but it won by miles in the first round.
Good choice. That was my second choice.
And again, probably because people can't catch up with 16 books.
It's fair.
You're right.
And I think also though, like Edge Dancer, you have to. Well, you don't have to, but it does minorly spoil some things that happen in the first book, or just which characters are living at that point in time. So
that's why I didn't. Read it.
There's not as much tension if you go into the Stormlight books after reading Edge Dancer. So I'm sure a lot of people just didn't read either of those.
Well, Edge Dancer came in second to Secret, or third. Secret History came second, and then Edge Dancer third. So they ranked them in the same way that you guys did. So there you go.
So
what do we class as the winner then, or do we just separate them as two different categories?
Well, we do. That's how we usually do. We have the judges winner and the popular winner.
Yeah, we just have a kind of, this is what happened.
We just agree to disagree. Anyone who wants to fight me.
And sometimes, the public vote gets it right, and sometimes we get it right. But
this time it was
there's and sometimes we both see eye to eye.
I think
basically we'll never know.
I feel like more people have spoken about Every Heart as a Doorway.
I definitely has
more people read it, so that's a good sign in itself. Everyone actually felt the desire to read Every Heart a Doorway. No one else felt the desire to read the Sandersons, so I don't think that bodes that well.
Well, I mean, I'm sure I'm in the minority opinion on Every Heart a Doorway. So yeah.
What would you have gone for, Thomas? Or you haven't read? Did you only read Every Heart as a Doorway?
I guess of those three, I wouldn't have. I'm not as caught up with the Cosmere cycle, so I think I would have been reluctant to read Secret History. But probably between Storm Dancer and Every Heart, it would have been one of those, hold my nose and put the switch for Shannon. I would have forgiven so much in Every Heart a Doorway. I would have forgiven that ridiculous serial killer story that she didn't need to tell. I would have forgiven a lot if the ending had been different. I wanted her to stay with Cade. That's what I wanted.
Second book in her series had been up against Miss Bond's Secret History. I would have had a lot harder time choosing between them because I did love the second one in her series.
So did I.
It's a lot better in terms of the story and the quality and everything is so much more interesting and just generally better.
Just more focused, I guess, as a whole.
Maybe we'll see next year for that, so we can have a big discussion.
Next year.
Have to wait till next year.
It really is night and day between Every Heart a Doorway and Sticks and Bones. in terms of the level of
I'm
improvement.
excited then. I have it
like you
sitting
said,
over there.
Yeah, I have it too.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's right here.
Like you
Me
guys,
too.
like you said, more focused. I think it really,
Yeah,
the whole premise. She delivers on the premise to better effect in Sticks and Bones than she does in the first one. So, but oh well. But
People
I'm
in
in the
the
minority, I
comments-
think. So
People in the comments do let us know what you voted for, so we can see how skewed our votes are.
Right? Yeah.
And next year, when we do short fiction again, could everyone just like subscribe to some short fiction magazines now, so that you can maybe read some of those?
Yes,
and then
if you're not sure,
that would be great.
Rachel from Calinardi, Joe from Final Blow Joe, and other booktubers, I think Bree, and do like short fiction
live shows every now and then.
Live shows, watch those.
Yeah, because that would really help, I
variety.
think, for the next year, which would be great. Because
Yeah.
obviously, two of the same author is something we've had a bit of difficulty with in some of our categories. So
Which we'll
it would
probably
be nice to
discuss a little
diversify
bit
it a little bit next year.
Yes.
Shall
as
we?
Categories go
Shall
on.
we?
So the
Yes.
next category is graphic novel. I think we have a few more people to
This
vote
one's
in that
got
one.
order, I feel like.
I'm
Connor,
still undecided.
Adriana, me, Caitlin, and Sam. There you go.
Yeah. So should we start with? Let's start with Saga.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the one that is,
Okay,
always around.
so it's volume 6
Yeah.
that's nominated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is the blue one.
I wasn't loving this one as much as I loved a lot of the others. It felt
Really?
that one and number 5. They were both a bit flat for me.
I feel like Saga's lost its steam. Like when I first got into it, the first 3 volumes of Saga were like groundbreaking for me. I think a lot of people got into Saga like as their first graphic novel series, so I was head over heels for it. And then now I'm just like, I've read other stuff that I think is better. So, I don't know if my new stuff compares to like original Saga, like those first 3, but now I'm just kind of like, it's not giving me what I want it to, and it's kind of like almost
fillers,
losing
isn't it?
focus. Yeah, it's losing its focus. And I just kind of am like, stop, I love you. But it just isn't living up to my expectations. So
The
I
sixth
haven't
one
read
kind
7, but I've heard that it's better. Sorry, Tom. Oh, Connor.
I liked 7, but I agree.
I thought that the 6th one kind of started to bring it back towards the original goal, because I felt like they really lost the plot in the 4th and the 5th one. The first 3 were really good. I really enjoyed them, and then the 4th and 5th one just kind of seemed like they were just trying to shock you by killing off everyone. So it was just not as enjoyable. And then the 6th one, I think that they kind of brought it back to the story of the parents and the kid and focusing on that. And there's not as much just, oh, here's a character and their head got blown off. So
that's kind of been the thing from the beginning, though. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
They've always been about like randomly blowing people apart, like from the start. So that's not new.
Yeah, or massive lizard private parts, which when you're reading this in a restaurant of a hotel and you turn the page and then go, oh my god, everybody looks at you. That's hard.
Yeah.
What did everyone give
Saga's
like
just
Saga?
enjoyable?
What
I've
did
been
everyone
giving
give
Saga's
this one?
3s. The last like 3
Yeah, I
volumes
think like
have been 3 stars for me.
3.5 or something.
I think I gave it a 4.
Yeah,
I gave it a 4, I think.
I think I gave it a 4. I'm like on Goodreads right now.
I don't think I put it on
I haven't
Goodreads
mine.
actually. I forgot.
So people are all a little bit like,
I feel it was 4.
I think it's in a lull period.
It is. It's getting out of it. I agree with what I think like Connor and a couple of you were saying, but it's just kind of like compared to the other ones, it's not. It's like not as up there for me.
Yeah, I think it's what Sam was saying. Like, I feel like as a reader, have gotten like more desensitized to it. So I'm like, oh, here's another Saga volume, but then like I read something else that's doing something more progressive or more interesting, and like I just gravitate towards that instead.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a really important point, because when the first Saga came out, I thought, oh wow, we haven't seen this before. We haven't seen this sort of thing, and I kind of felt that every issue they were going to be trying to tackle something, or maybe like focus on some different things. But it seems like they're following the same sort of old stories. They're not like bringing anything new into it each time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if no one else has an opinion, speaking of new, we can talk about Monstrous, because I think that takes it from like way over here. Let's like not following any kind of formula. Let's just like so we can.
Madness.
which I loved.
Beautiful
And if you're
madness.
talking, if
Oh,
you're
no,
talking
it's a-
exploding heads, nothing
yeah.
is beating this.
Right. Nope. Just
Oh, I just didn't
craziness.
like it.
It was
I
pretty
Go
real.
away.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I gave it 3 stars and good. And I just thought it was a bit like. I think I just felt a little bit like, what? I don't know what's going on here. What is going on here?
I felt
I'm
the
sure
same
that-
way, but in a good way.
Oh, no, I don't like to be confused. I felt a bit stupid reading it. I was like, I don't really understand what's happened here. I got it the second time I read the first bit, and then it just sort of went, and I was like, I don't really understand. What's this backstory? How's this all happened?
Mm-hmm. I still don't know what happened, to be fair. I feel like we're going to have that
Okay.
with a couple other selections like later on that we're going to talk about. But I read it. I love it. And I'm still like, okay, what happened though? Like, but I love it.
This will be a familiar refrain in another category.
Yes, it will.
You're right, and a couple of us won't agree with that one either. But like, it makes for really good discussions because you have this really confusing story that some of us are like, it's so confusing, and some of us are like, I hate that. Right? But I think it's beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
Sam, do
love
you
that
like your books to be wrapped up at the end? Do you like to have, or do you not mind them being open?
I like open.
Yeah, you see, I like mine to be tied up in a nice little bow, and I think that's why I struggle with this.
All the tangly ends wandering.
So I wonder if it appeals to more of a tangly end like type of reader.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's definitely, I think, something that's going to be polarizing from what we've seen of people. I mean, I think everyone agrees it's beautiful art and completely breathtaking, but it's definitely like people either love it or hate it. I haven't heard anybody saying it's in between. Did anybody have an in-between opinion really about it? No.
No, I loved it.
Resounding silence.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an in-between kind of story, I don't think.
No,
No.
that's true.
I mean, for me, the art pulled it up. I think had it not been beautiful art, it probably would have been a 2-star for me. But the art really pulled it back up.
I really like the
artwork is
mythology
amazing.
kind of, like, I'm a sucker for that kind of mythology-based folklore-y dead gods, like that's all my stuff too. And ladies, so I was like it's just checking like every box for me, so I really loved it. But I'm still not sure ultimately what my final vote is until we talk about the next one. So
should we do that then?
Right. I mean, does anybody have opinions besides me just gushing about monsters for like?
I agree with everything you said. So I'm like, just keep talking.
Right.
I don't know. I think my favorite part of Monstrous was definitely the like in between or the beginning or whatever of each chapter where they have the cat giving the lesson.
I love the cat.
Yes.
That was
I
super
also love
interesting.
the fox character.
Right.
I love the fox character.
Favorite.
Yeah. The little baby.
Yeah.
So cute.
Right.
I think
Oh dear, stick an animal in and you're all
It's
happy.
replaced Gus for me. You know, Gus in Saga was my favorite, but
No, Lion Cat
Lion
is the
Cat
best
is
in
my
Saga.
favorite, I think still. Yeah. Like.
She is a badass.
she comes back in Volume 7 to like
That'll be a highlight.
do more stuff.
It's appropriate. So do we want to talk about Descender Volume 2 then?
Yes. Yeah. I love this.
I love this one too. Like a
And
lot.
I didn't love
too.
the artwork to begin with. It's really not my type of artwork.
Same.
Like when I read the first one, I was like, oh, I'm not sure I like this artwork. But the story I bought the artwork. I don't know. It just made it all work. It's just.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Star Wars every time I read it. Like it makes me think of that feeling I had because unfortunately I was around nearly when Star Wars came out, and so I remember that feeling of like watching them with my brother when I was a kid and how excited. And I had that when I read Descender as well.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things for me with it is that I really enjoy the story, but the artwork is harder for me to get into. I mean, it's beautiful, like it does its style very well, but it's just not the style that I love the most. So
I love the artwork of Descender, and I love the story of the second one more, which I think the first one I enjoyed, but I feel like the second one solidified a lot more for me about the whole intergalactic travel and like the different places and different people and different societies and stuff and what was kind of going on, because I feel like in the first I was a little bit like, I don't really get it, but it's beautiful. So same thing, it's monstrous. Like, but yeah, I think it's a tricky one. Like this is probably the hardest category for me to choose between those two because I love them both so much.
That's how I feel.
I
too.
do know what I'm choosing, but only just.
I still haven't decided. It's gonna be last year. But I feel the same way. But I feel like I liked the first volume slightly more than the second, which was interesting.
Okay.
I liked them. It was like 5 stars and 4.5 stars, so it was like really close. Like I liked some of the new characters or people that we see come back as older and jaded and sad. So that was great. And it's one of those graphic novels that makes me like really emotional, and I don't get emotional reading. Like I don't cry, but I start to like get misty when I'm reading parts of Descender. So that kind of speaks to how like it sucks you in instantly, and even if you're a little confused, it's like you really care. And there's like little found family elements, which I really like. So it also appeals to me on a lot of levels.
Has anybody got their books there? Has anyone got Descenders? There's people in the comments that wanted to see the artwork. Otherwise, I can go and jump on my shelf.
Yeah.
Just so they can see the.
Oh
no, Elizabeth!
I don't want a spoiler.
Oh yeah, that's really hard. I don't know what to spoil.
I feel like
no
the
giant lizard
covers are
genitals, right?
kind
Oh,
of-
wrong books. Sorry.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Pretty things.
like this.
Isn't it lovely? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's take a map. So it's the first page of the first volume, so that's not a spoiler.
Not
So you're good. But yeah, it's like watercolory, right? Right. I'm not an
I
art
think with the
person,
art, I guess it's the style, but I liked how in Monstrous, like, it was very detailed and you could see a lot of the background. And then in
Yeah.
Descender, there's like hardly any of the background done. So it's,
See, I feel like that makes sense
you know, how
because
someone will,
Chris is like set in this sort of really detailed city, whereas Descender's like out in space. Like,
Right.
there's not much out there.
Well, you're meant to be on like a future like dome. It's all like white and perfect. And,
Right.
Yeah, the inside bits are in sort of white.
I liked how they used colour in Descender though. How they got you can see which colour is like predominant on that page. They use like a really bright one for like focusing you in on different things. Because I'm normally I'm into like the whole colour, you know, big punchy colour, and so I was surprised that I liked that. But it sort of led you through the story. I thought with the different like pops of colour they put in there.
I like the lady with the red hair or the orange.
Yeah. Yeah.
Her character design. I just love her character design.
I'm getting distracted flicking through it now. Picked it up. That's why I didn't pick them up.
Okay, so we quickly go down the people that are voting what they voted for. Sam, if you haven't decided, I will wait for you.
Yeah.
Connor, do
You
you
could
want
be
to
the
go first?
deciding vote.
Connor, do you know? I went for Descender, by the way. You're going for Monstrous.
Yeah.
Okay. Adriana?
I'm voting for Descender because I see a lot of parallels between like the AI storyline and marginality. And I feel like it really speaks about how certain people are expected to meet a certain level of usefulness and then they're expendable, and then how they will like inevitably rise up against that. So that's what spoke to me about Descender and just like AI stories in general. So Descender for me all the way.
Cool. Caitlin?
Monstrous.
Oh my god, it's the Sam. Sam.
So I will say, I wanted to comment a little bit on what Adriana just said too. I really like, that's what I love about AI stories as well. And I think it's interesting that another one of our nominees later on, it's not science fiction, it's fantasy, has a similar kind of theme. So we have a couple stories within our nominees that have a similar theme with oppression.
I feel like you're going to break my heart and choose Monstrous.
So I am going with Monstrous.
Okay.
But I still I want to split my vote because I love them. I feel like I do love them equally for different reasons. But Monstrous is
really
ultimately.
Between.
I feel like but I love them both.
Would you like
But
to
if
know
you
the
didn't like
popular
that
vote
second
results?
volume as much?
yes.
Oh yeah, what's
vote.
the popular vote?
Okay, this was our very closest category. Like
I'm not surprised.
three votes close.
Wow.
Yeah, the winner was Monstrous.
Yeah.
Good choice, Sam.
But I am the people. I am the people. Like I understand you're polite.
We're not the
Was it
people though,
Saga
because
second?
Descender was wiped out very, very quickly. Low votes, I'm afraid.
Why? Well, I think it also is because Saga is like the booktube. Everybody
Yeah,
in Saga.
it's huge.
Yes.
Like I didn't hear about Descender until it got nominated last year for the Booktube SFF Awards.
But people who voted for Descender first tended to vote for Monstrous second. whereas the saga votes were very different.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's monsters across the board for that one. That's good. Well, you know.
But read Descender, people, if you haven't. Like, read them
For
both.
sure.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
both well worth reading.
Yeah.
And I've heard that the next volume's going to be even better.
Right.
I haven't read it yet.
So next we have
Middle grade.
Middle grade.
I'm out
grade.
for this.
Actually voting in this.
So I actually want to complain for a second because I know everybody in here knows, but I tried to rent both of their Riordan books back in March, and I am number 21 and number 19 out of 4 copies from my library. So like I tried.
E-copies.
E-copies. E-book.
Yeah.
Like I tried, and it's like, you know what? I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't supposed to read them. I wasn't.
No one's supposed to read them,
It's a
quite
sign.
frankly. So don't-
Well done,
I wasn't
Melanie.
that upset.
I will.
I was
Oh,
just
I'm gonna
upset for
get
not being able to judge them.
hated.
I want to hear the battle.
Oh, they took years off my life.
Oh,
So do we? Should we say which ones the books are?
yeah,
In case somebody-
yeah.
Right.
So we've got Furthermore by Tara Muffy, Hammer of Thor, and Trials of Apollo, both by Rick.
Riordan.
From different series.
Yes.
But interlinked ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do all
Kind of,
these
yeah.
Kind of
like,
linked-ish.
match a bit? Do they all kind of have like intersecting
They
stuff?
all go together, yeah. So I always recommend people to read them in like publishing order because that's just the best way to do it. Because when you read, you have to read all of the Percy Jackson and the Olympians and then the Heroes of Olympus, and then you can jump into these books.
Yep.
You could
Because
jump
pretty
into
much-
the
You can jump into
the Hammer of Thor.
Yeah, but as long as you don't care if you know like some characters survive the
Because
total.
he's
of 10
related
books.
to somebody else from Percy Jackson, right?
Annabeth.
Yeah,
Annabeth's
who's like a main Percy Jackson character.
Yeah, she's the main
Yeah.
female protagonist.
Mhm.
But you didn't need to know that. It wasn't like a necessary like
Right.
thing. Because I hadn't read them. I started with that and I just was like, oh, okay, right. Okay, so she's in this other connected thing.
Right.
So that made more sense of it. But it was
Well,
absolutely fine to go in and just go for it because she was such a minor character.
Mhm.
Well, I think though that as the series progresses, it's going to have more and more overlap. So if
Yeah.
you don't have the backs or like you haven't read those first books, it's going to spoil you.
It doesn't matter though, does it? Because they're really just the same story, rewritten and rewritten and rewritten.
That's like middle grade in general.
But I just feel like he just writes. I literally like I was like, right, something's gonna happen here, and then they're gonna all chase off, and then this is gonna happen, and then they're gonna
but
have
you
this
could say
argument
the same
with
thing about Enid Blyton, Harry Potter.
yeah,
like,
I suppose so. But they're good.
children's books.
I don't know. I really struggle with a male protagonist in
I
middle
do
grade.
too.
And in other books as well, but really in middle grade I really struggle because I can't get into the psyche of teenage boy.
Nobody likes a 12-year-old boy,
No.
like at all.
Oh,
you
and
know?
especially
from like
12
12 to like 32, you guys are all no. But like, I mean,
Can
I feel
confirm.
like it is into the humor that I feel like the Rick Riordan books use. Like I've only read a few Percy
I hate
Jacksons,
the
and I've been
humor.
like,
I love
Oh,
it.
I
you know.
liked it.
I know.
Maybe I
The humor makes me so happy. It's like my kind of
Yeah.
humor.
See, I
No.
can't- I
It's
think
kind of hit or
Oh.
miss. If you love the humor, you're gonna love the books, and if you
Yeah.
don't like it, you're gonna absolutely
gonna hate
the
them.
books.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just thought it was really fun and sarcastic, but I did think that the Trials of Apollo was utter.
Oh, that
I
was
I did
just
like the
didn't like
Trials
the
of
voice
Apollo.
thing I've read in
Oh.
ages.
I found Apollo so annoying, and
I-
Yeah.
I
think-
liked all other. I can't talk. I liked the rest of his books except for the Trials of Apollo. That was the first one that was really a miss for me for Rick Riordan.
I think it's I guess because he's already has that character in the other books. Like he's a god in those books, so he's a very entitled person. And then when he gets turned into a mortal, you can't just take away the fact
Yeah,
that
but
he's super
Don't write
entitled.
the book
and what-
then.
Yeah, just don't write the
Write
book.
something
Yeah,
else.
that's the thing,
Just
so.
don't write the book.
I
There's
definitely
a
think it was
whole
his weakest
bunch of
one.
gods, you know? There's like a whole pantheon. Pick someone else.
Apollo's my favorite god.
Not a rapist would be good.
Poor
Not
Connor.
a rapist.
Well, I know I said that I don't think that the Trials of Apollo is very good, and but Apollo's still my favorite god.
Oh dear.
Yeah, right. I'm like, really?
There are better
Connor is
gods
being
out
judged right now.
That's fine. Come for me. I'm a classical studies
Bring it.
teacher.
Have you read Song of Achilles yet? Because I think that would change your mind.
I haven't
Right.
yet. I actually gave it to Sam.
Yeah, and it's all Adriana's
He did, and I love it.
Oh, I can't wait to read that one.
But it wasn't voted for in middle grade because it's not middle grade, so we can't talk about it.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so what do you guys
Okay,
like?
so
Like
let's-
a million years ago too.
Do you want to
turn
break
my lights on?
the Riordan books into like short? Ugh, I can't talk either. Shorter things and say what you thought of. Like, what do you think of Trials of Apollo? What do you guys think of the Hammer of
Okay.
Thor?
Yeah.
And then we can
Hammer
talk
of
about.
Okay.
Was it Hammer
Should we
of Thor?
start with Trials
Yes.
of Apollo because that was a first book?
Mhm.
Rubbish.
Right.
Get rid of it. Shouldn't have ever been written. Burn every copy.
I think
I
that
haven't even read it, and I agree with you, honestly.
it's one of those
No.
books. It's one of those books. It reminds me of like drama TV shows where like at a certain point in the TV show, it's just continued for too long, and like
And it's the first
the
book.
things that are happening are so ridiculous and absurd.
Yeah.
That's the Trials of Apollo.
It was supernatural. It was supernatural.
The thing that really annoys me
Gone
as
on
well
forever.
is that like we get the return of Percy Jackson in there, which literally
Spoilers.
felt so
Everyone
annoying.
knows he's not.
I know.
It's Percy Jackson. Like
Like Percy Jackson definitely survives.
Yeah, like they would be like Harry Potter.
Right.
Guess what? He's in book 7.
But like stuff like that really annoys me, where it's like just coming back to something that's already a success just because it's already a success and going like, here, have some more. And
Wait,
that's
wait,
all
wait.
it felt like to
A
me.
bit like Secret History.
I was about to say something.
Secret History's new stuff though, like it's actually got a plot, whereas this one felt like event, some returning characters, and then everything goes to hell.
That's
book
every
2.
Sanderson book ever.
No, but Sanderson actually writes stuff that like is interesting. This was just so far from interesting, and the humor was way off base, and I was like, no.
So
There were
question-
so many lines
Did
from
anybody
Apollo
like
that
it?
sounded
Right,
hugely rapey to me that I just could not like.
Right.
ugh.
Okay. So I wanted to ask about that. So Apollo is like a huge rapist in like myth. Like they all,
Yeah.
most of them are anyway.
Yeah,
like, that's
yeah,
not real.
true.
Yeah.
So is that like a? I mean, so it
That was really
that colors
creepy to me.
things in the middle grade story. The fact
No,
that he's
they
like,
covered it up with it was a love story in his past.
No, but they did cover it up because there were moments where he was like commenting on the ladies around him in really, really horrible ways that I really found like creepy, knowing the backstory.
right.
If you didn't know it, maybe it wouldn't have been, but knowing it, it was.
But it
awful.
was worse
Like,
that they
so
tried
bad.
to make the story of him and Daphne
into something romantic.
into a love story. It was this
Yeah,
like
and that
great
was
regret
so
of like
creepy.
loves of his life.
No. Oh.
That's so creepy.
Can't even
Which-
talk
yeah,
about
that's
this book.
weird.
I'm gonna let you guys.
Okay, so it seems like everybody didn't like Trials of Apollo. So you guys can probably go on to Hammer of Thor.
This one, I
Oh,
mean,
I
this one
really
was
liked
just.
it.
It was all right. I mean, it was a Rick Rodden book, wasn't it? It was.
This one-
You got it's what it said on the tin. You got what it said on the tin. Like, and it was. I listened to it on audio. It was good enough. Like, it passed the time.
How is
I
the
did-
audiobook narrator for those? Because the audiobook narrator for Percy Jackson is atrocious. Like,
I don't.
so
I
bad.
sped it up quite fast.
average.
You
Yeah.
have to. I mean, the one for Percy Jackson, ooh, man, I could not. Even on 2-speed. That, mm-mm.
No,
There are some audiobook narrators I love, but I have to listen to them on 2 or 3 times speed because they are so slow.
And
But I
precise
still
with
love
their
their
speed.
sort of thing once they're up to that speed.
Right.
Yeah, why are
Yeah.
they so slow? I mean, almost like they're really, really trying
Enunciating.
hard. Yeah,
Yeah. I
it
don't
doesn't
know
sound
why that-
natural.
Mm-mm.
I enjoyed, moving on from narrators, I enjoyed the story in this one because the characters were really fun. Like the people that were included, I cannot remember anybody's names, but the girl with the winged horse and the sword, the axe.
No one
Yeah, I know who you
I know
mean.
who you're talking about, but I can't think of her name either, so don't worry. I read it when it first came out last October, so it's a while ago.
Yeah.
Same.
And in the second book, Alex,
Mhm.
Alex, who is a non-binary character, which I thought was just fantastic to see in fiction, especially in middle grade fiction, just exist because we never get that. There was more representation in those two Hammer of Thor, whatever it was called, books, like than in most of the other stuff.
Oh yeah, no, there was good.
I do really like that. I think that he did a really good job with Alex. I think though that with the Magnus Chase books, it almost seems like he has a big list of like diverse people, and he's like,
like ticking them off.
That one, here you go.
Yeah,
get the awards. And I was like, there's a little bit more research that you need to do.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about, like, so obviously Rick Riordan just writes Greek or other mythology-based books. Do you guys feel like he's an author that could ever get out of that and write better, maybe, stuff? Or is it like he has to only write mythology, he can't do anything else?
He wrote something else.
Did he?
Obviously it didn't work.
Right.
I want to say it was an adult.
No one knows what it is. It was buried away in a secret vault.
I'm just wondering if he could do different middle grade that wasn't this formula and actually be better.
I think for him.
But why would he? He's so popular.
Yeah, I feel like he's in like a box now, and why would he come out of it when he's the most successful person doing it?
Right.
You know, I'd stay there. I'd keep churning them out.
Right. He'll always be judged against the success of this, like J.K. Rowling with Harry Potter. Like she did all right with the Robert Galbraith stuff, but it was always, is it Harry Potter? Is it going to be, you know?
Yeah.
He did that Egyptian series, didn't he? He did do the Kane Chronicles.
That's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought they were kind of
something, the Maze of Bones.
Yeah, Egyptian mythology.
Egyptian gods.
Yeah, it sounds like he's just doing the same thing, different gods.
Mm-hmm.
What was the Maze of Bones? Anybody? Have you read that? 39 Clues?
Nope.
He wrote the Trace Nevere. I don't know how to pronounce that. And that's he's a private investigator series. It's, I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't read it.
Oh,
I'm just seeing if I can find anything else that he's done.
But 2,163 people rated the first book, so someone read it.
Well, I don't know. It is Goodreads. People just rate things.
Yeah,
they do. This is Rick Riordan. I love it. 5 stars.
Well, this book won't be out until I'm 37, but I'll give it 5 stars.
So how do you guys feel then about Furthermore, which I've read, so I think a lot of us
love it.
Furthermore.
I hated
love that book.
Either.
I hated it so much.
Really? Oh, why did you hate it?
I both loved it and hated it. So
I found the main character so annoying.
Yep.
I was so annoyed the entire time I was reading it. Like I couldn't handle it. It was nails on a
Both of the characters
chalkboard.
were annoying.
I didn't like the love, well, I guess it wasn't quite a love story, but it sort of was. Like, we're adding this middle grade, like, because I know that she writes love stuff with, like, Shatter Me. So I could tell that, like, she doesn't really know how to do this, like, friendship thing. So it still came off very, like, these people are in love, and I'm like, they're 12.
Yeah, they're kind of flirty, and it's, like, weird. Yeah,
it wasn't platonic feeling, and that rubbed me the wrong way when I was reading it.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and the ending for that, I mean, I liked it more than I liked the others probably, but it was close. But sorry, I'm moving around a lot because I'm trying to get some actual light. But it just felt like we spent ages, and then all of a sudden it was over. I was like, oh, yeah, what happened there? Oh, and we're back.
It wasn't long.
It was like one chapter to like wrap the whole thing up.
Yeah, it was really abrupt. It was jarring almost.
Yeah, because you'd spent all this time and actually the world she created in there wasn't terrible. Like, it gave me a bit of a vibe of Alice in Wonderland, and it was quite, creative. But I just felt we spent ages like this build up, and then all of a sudden it was so easy to wrap the story up.
I hated the male character who was with her, who wouldn't tell her anything the whole time. And he's got all the answers. He knows everything, and he's constantly like, "Oh, you're not behaving how you should. You haven't told her how to behave. How should she know?"
But I did like that she questioned it, whereas in a lot of fantasy books, where it's like how Dumbledore knew everything in Harry Potter. Why did they not just go, Dumbledore, what the hell do you know? Stop keeping stuff from us. You clearly know more than we do.
Right.
Nobody ever confronts him on that.
True.
And then he goes and dies, but
spoiler.
You've had enough time to read those books by now.
It's been 20 years.
Get over it.
So I'm wondering what you guys actually ended up voting for, because it seems like nobody liked middle grade
Anything.
options.
No, I liked them. I liked
the option
the
of
Percy
just no
Jackson,
award.
not Percy Jackson, the Hammer of Thor one.
Is that
And
what you're going for,
I did
Elizabeth?
too.
I don't know, and I liked and
You
hated.
don't know?
I'm debating in my head because furthermore, it was so annoying and so slow.
Mhm.
Who's lawn mowing?
But did anybody else try reading it out loud?
No.
Okay, so some of it sounded a little bit weird, but I like to read it out loud to myself with some books because the language is so pretty and you can kind of feel it in your head. But if you actually say it out loud, that book is gorgeous, like epically gorgeous, and it is made to be told as a story.
It
And when you
reminds
say
me
it,
a lot
you can
of
feel it.
Catherine Valenti's Fairyland series. In
But
the
this
writing style.
particularly, like, it felt like you could sit and read a chapter to somebody, like story time when you were in school, and it would be perfect for that. And that's why it's so repetitive and sort of goes over and over. It has that rhythm.
Right.
But to read and sit down through, oh my god, it was so boring.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I wonder if an audiobook would have been a better option to read those stories in, because she has a second one
Maybe,
coming out that I'm really excited about. It's like a companion within the same like universe, and it's a lot darker sounding. It's like a girl that washes dead bodies, and I'm like, cool. So I'm excited about that one. I'm wondering if it's going to be a
Career
similar
goals.
thing as far as like, you know, reading it out loud, doing an audiobook instead of doing the physical copy.
I would honestly recommend reading it out loud to yourself, or just in general, just quietly, because the feel of the language is sort of adds to it, I think. This may just be me being weird, but I
like
really
it.
No, I read stuff out loud too. Like sometimes I'm reading something and it's so good that it needs to be said out loud.
Yes.
Like that's the type of language it is. So I do that too. So you're not weird.
When I was actually growing up, I used to reread the Harry Potter books all the time, and I used to read them out loud to myself and affect a British accent.
I so want to hear this now.
Can you?
Me too.
Yeah, we're all waiting for a demonstration.
Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley, a full privilege.
It's been too long.
So what are your guys' votes then?
Yeah. Well, should we start with Connor?
Who's gone?
Connor, who are you voting for?
Me?
Sorry.
No, the other Connor.
Well,
I didn't.
yeah.
I
The
didn't
person not on screen.
We're
Yeah.
voting for middle grade.
I'm voting for the Hammer of Thor.
Hammer of Thor. Okay. Sam, you?
Hammer of Thor.
Okay. I voted for Furthermore. Caitlin?
No award.
No. Okay. Elizabeth.
Furthermore.
So there's two of each.
Ooh.
Oh dear.
Sus guys.
Caitlin, you sound like you
Does
might
that mean I
have to be
actually
the
have to
tiebreaker or
choose
something.
one?
Yeah, I think you read them all, didn't you? So you should choose
Oh.
one.
Okay.
Roll a d6.
We will
Let's choose
recognize.
Furthermore.
We will recognize your thoughts on no award, but
But I don't think any of them should get an award.
tiebreak.
Okay, but you would have gone for Furthermore. over
Furthermore
all
would
the
be my
others.
top
If you
choice.
had to.
Just, yeah.
Interestingly, yet again, we reflect the real human beings out there.
Excellent.
Furthermore did win, but no award came third as opposed
Oh,
to
thank
last.
God. Well done, guys. Well done.
Yeah, and there seems to be a common consensus in our thread here that most people just didn't bother reading them because they didn't like the
Fair
sound of any of
enough.
them.
That's
So
fine, because then how did they even get nominated? Like,
I've
Like,
People just
We
know
didn't choose
middle
them.
grade is Rick Riordan, and so people just nominated. I will
I
say.
don't know. I read a lot of middle grade, and there's
No.
some great ones.
Yeah,
I
go
am
over to
ignorant.
Connor's channel.
Yeah, but he's like,
Adriana's
Sanderson.
channel.
He's one of these, like, he's the only author a lot of people know in his particular
Yeah.
category. Like epic fantasy, so many readers is like they only know Brandon Sanderson as a name.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
and
But
that
But
just
it's okay.
reflects.
This is the beginning. This is how we all like learn and stuff, because getting into the booktube like YA recommendations is how I have learned and gotten into YA stuff
Other
again.
things, yeah,
Because
that's
there's
true.
so much out there, but you don't know until something.
I definitely think if I don't know what's happening next year, but if a category like this does stay in, it's worth like people making videos and like Connor, you read a lot more of that. So like recommendations of books that came out this year for next year's, so that I think people can have the time to read them and then vote, because I think like people would just be carrying on with Rick Riordan because they've always read him, and so they'll be like, well, that's the only thing I've read from that year, so I'll just put that down. Whereas if they knew in advance, they could try some other stuff beforehand.
People say that though, and it's like, have you watched our
I did
channel?
get some recommendations today from my 10-year-old brother of lots of really great middle grade series. He actually sat down with me for an hour and a half and went through his bookshelf and explained
so
it all
cute.
to me.
That's
So I've
adorable.
actually
Well, there
got
you
a
go.
lot
Is a
of ones that I'm
budding
now
book
going to
reader.
try and start
Right?
on his recommendation.
Put his
So-
recommendations up somewhere as a list. We can
Yeah, do that
They're
on
all
the
like
good
brand
I like
new
that.
ones, but he does a lot of the Waterstones Book of the Month ones. He likes those ones. So I think lots of bookshops actually do highlight some really good like middle grade fiction as award picks, or just on the shelves they sort of highlight ones. So it's worth going into your shop and just talking to the booksellers and being like, hey, I don't ever read middle grade, but can you recommend me some really good ones? And they will be able to.
There are a lot of channels that do talk about it. Like Connor
Yeah.
and Adriana talk about middle grade a ton. And Adriana has given me recommendations, and I do not read middle grade, but I've been like, ooh, Adriana likes that. So, like, I was really excited for this category this year because I was like, we're going to have some fun, interesting middle grade. I don't really get into it. And it was like, oh, Rick Riordan. I'm like, well, I already knew him.
Well, I think
Yeah.
next year too, aren't we like planning on if there's a duplicate author, not including both the books?
Right.
Yeah.
If it
Or
did-
fiction only.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which we will talk about a little more at the end. But yeah, like I was really excited. And then it was just like, I couldn't read most of them. But anyway.
But the future will be better.
Yes.
Isn't there School for Good and Evil middle grade?
Yes.
Sort of.
I
It's
love
one of
those.
those-
I
one of
love
those, like,
those so much.
crossovers,
Why
I feel
weren't they
like.
on there?
People just don't read
They should be. They should be next year because he's coming out with the fourth one this year.
I
I'm
know.
just saying. It's more gory. Okay.
Very exciting.
I haven't.
But what was
the
the popular vote? Did we say what the popular vote was for this
We
one?
did. It was Furthermore.
Furthermore.
Mhm.
You'll be pleased to know Trials of Apollo went out in the first round. and
I'm
it
so
crashed.
glad. I'm
Yeah.
glad. Thank you, people.
There is one recent middle grade for this year that I think will be interesting to see how it does, and if people are talking about it next year. That I have on my stack, and I'm interested in getting into. It's called The Gauntlet. The author's Karuna Riazi.
Yeah,
I think I've heard about this.
Yeah, and it's it sounds kind of like has sort of maybe a night in the museum kind of a
Yeah.
basic
Like
plot, but
I feel it's like it's a Jumanji kind of thing.
yeah, I got some of that vibe to it as well.
Ooh, that could be cool.
Is
Yeah.
that the one that Riley just read recently?
It may have been, yeah.
Yeah.
I think she might have.
Yeah.
Look.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep my
Should we
eyes
move on
peeled.
to YA
Yeah,
then?
YA.
Yeah, I can talk about them.
YA.
This might be contentious too.
This
I
might
feel
be
like.
Oh, yeah.
controversial.
All of it. All of
Really
it.
contentious.
So our nominees were A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, and Cricket Kingdom by Lee Bardugo, and This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. V.E. Schwab.
Correct.
The Schwab.
Well, she's Victoria in this one, I believe.
The Schwab.
Yeah.
The
It's like
Schwab.
weird though because the UK edition has her as V Schwab on it, so I don't know.
They're interchangeable. But I think she is, Victoria for this. I don't understand. They should all be grouped
Right.
together,
Right.
honestly.
Young
It
adult
says
as-
Victoria, so she's a Victoria.
Yeah, she writes young adult as Victoria and adult as V.E.
There's
Schwab.
V.E. But yeah, so
Right.
which one should we start?
Start with Savage Song, maybe. I feel like that's the less contentious of the three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's
That
all?
sucked.
Yeah, who all?
Yeah,
I
didn't
think
like it.
everyone read these apart from Adriana. Did you read this one?
No, because I refuse on principle to read A Court of Thorns and Roses. So I have read the other. I have read the other two though, but I can't vote in this one because I.
We can still chat about. Yeah. Okay. So I think everyone's read this Savage
This one.
Song.
Yes.
But it sounds like it is polarizing because I really liked this Savage Song.
I did too.
I thought it was
I enjoyed
average.
it.
I didn't hate it.
I was pleasantly surprised that I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did.
Mhm.
I
Thumbs
thought it was a
down.
bit rubbish.
And
Not gonna lie.
I think it's because I immediately have like the shades of magic novels to contrast it with, and I think that they're just she does better things with her storytelling in the Savage Song than, or at least things that I liked,
I agree.
approaches that she took to her story that I liked a lot better, particularly her characters, than what she's doing in the Shades of Magic books. And so it was a pleasant surprise for me.
I got exactly the same sensation reading the Savage Song as the other ones. I can't remember, Gathering of Shadows and all that. In that it starts off and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I liked this so much. I'm really interested in this character and this character and like what's gonna happen. And then it's like, okay, we're going, like stuff's happening. Oh, it ended, nothing's happened.
Trope.
Yeah.
I really like it, but I do find that I prefer Victoria Schwab's YA to her adult. Like I do not. We'll talk about this. I do not like her adult books. Like
I would agree with that.
I really don't.
Yeah, I agree.
So
you didn't like Vicious?
I haven't read Vicious, and everyone's like, read Vicious, you'll love it.
Oh,
And I just, out of principle, kind of, because I'm like, stop telling me what to do.
Life is too short.
Right, but like, I really do like her YA stuff, and I just like the whole like making monsters and how like kind of timely it is and all this kind of stuff that she does. But I do find that she tends to walk the line of like insufferable characters, like a little, like, but I prefer them in the YA books more than I do like the adult books. I'm like, you're adults, stop this, you know?
You can kind of let them off
like
when
I
they're
just-
teenagers.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's like I was all prepared to be really, really annoyed by Kate, and I ended up kind of liking her. You know.
I was
They
annoyed by
all
it.
felt the same age across the adult and the young adult though. Like they didn't feel different.
exactly.
Yeah, that's my complaint, is that the adult one feels like a YA to me.
I think it's
like the way the characters act. So.
She almost writes very immature characters, so I think that's
Yeah.
why they come across that way in her adult series. Is that they're supposed to be adults, but they're acting like they're 10 years younger than they are.
Like petty children. Grow up.
I really like
Okay.
the musical elements though with the Savage song. I thought that like even the words that she used to describe the world and what people were doing all kind of had to do with music, and I thought that was a really cool element that she included. I really enjoyed the male, I don't know his name.
August.
I liked reading from his perspective and his story and everything that happened with him. His like sister was my favorite character in the book. Her like ethereal presence was very fun
I
to read
loved
about.
her so much.
I thought Kate was really annoying.
Yeah, she was.
There's something about also the I mean the world of course is set up along these very simplistic moral lines, but it kind of had the feeling of, you know, that just made it so okay, I can just accept this on a popcorn entertainment level and kind of appreciate it at that level. And it also felt to me it had maybe it was the school setting as well, but it kind of it called back to that kind of 90s, you know, fantasy, like you know, maybe like the Joss
Buffy
Whedon
the Vampire.
It had that sensibility to it.
Like they're on the Hellmouth, you know.
Yeah. And it just so it kind of had a little bit of a retro, you know, kind of the callback sense to it that I found fun. And again, was something that's lacking, that sort of little extra kind of, you know, spice that the Shades of Magic books just aren't having for me.
Just thinking of it as Buffy makes me feel so much more positive about it.
Right? Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed like a lot of I feel like it fell apart at the end a little bit though too. Like it's one of those because the ending stuff and like the twist and the brother and all that. That's like I'm not really that into it.
It didn't feel very believable. Not believable. It just I don't know how to describe how I feel about it.
Well, we didn't get the investment in that we needed for that to have like been a big thing that mattered in a plot sense.
Yeah,
that was a kind of a stumble there. But again,
so we all kind of liked it, didn't we? But
Adriana, did you like it or?
I was like middle of the road about it because things that were said in the synopsis didn't happen till like 300, 400 pages into the book. So I feel like the pacing to me was off, and then it had that sort of trademark V.E. Schwab shit hits the fan kind of ending, which I find kind of like hokey and gimmicky. So like I was, and I'm not like, I don't live that like crime boss like mafia vibe that was happening with what's her name, Kate. Yeah. So, not my favorite from her. I gave it like 2.5. I was like right in the middle.
So what do we want to go on to next?
Let's do Akamath. Let's just get it out of the way. There's going to be discussions. We have a lot of opinions.
I love it.
I love it too.
And I hated the first one. I hated the first one. Hate. And I can understand why Adriana doesn't want to read it. And had I not read it, I probably wouldn't have read it to get to the second one. But because I'd read the first one, I was like, I'm never reading this ever. And then someone said, you should really read the second one because it's much better. And then I just fully invested. Yeah.
I have a weird love-hate relationship with the series because while I'm reading it, I find it really entertaining and I'm engrossed in it, like, you know, like a soap opera almost. Like, I know it's bad, but I still kind of am enjoying the story. But then I would also get really annoyed with the writing, and then I would just, so I have this weird love-hate relationship with that series.
Yeah. It was trash, but I loved it.
Right.
Yeah. It was like,
So that's the thing. I kind of wish that I didn't go into it expecting great fantasy storytelling, so I can't really say that I was disappointed with either of the books because I got what I was expecting in that regard. Mm-hmm. But I do sort of wish that she had been willing to just kind of go all out with it a little more with the trash aspect. Like it was okay trash, and it could have been awesome trash, and it was just sort of okay trash. Mm-hmm. It's like, we know these characters are going to bang eventually, so why make us wait 250 pages, you know, get it going on, and then get all the rest of the plot shit happening. Okay.
Oh God, her sex scenes were so bad.
They are so bad.
But that's the thing.
Have you read M.K. Jemison's Thousand Kingdoms? Because that sex scene really is just the worst thing.
That moved.
But they could have been like, it could have been even better bad sex scenes. You know what I mean? It's like they were just sort of like the sex scenes. But it could have been like awesomely terrible sex scenes.
That wasn't even the part
like the
of
kind
the
that you know, like the kind of you get drunk and read to each other, like, oh, God, wait, you won't believe this. Listen to this. You know, like that kind of. It needed to be like just over the top, and I kind of I'm disappointed that the series isn't.
It's not smutty enough.
It's not great trash. It's just sort of average trash.
It could
is that
have
because it wants
adult.
to be YA and not new adult? Is that
new
so
adult,
that they could keep it down into YA? I don't know.
I mean, new adult isn't technically even a category, right? Like, this has been a kind of discussion within the publishing industry that, like, it's not in bookstores. New adult isn't really a thing, so it's put into YA, even though we're all like, it's new adult. But like, it's more of like a blogging term almost at this point. So it's
just YA with sex in. Like,
right, it's YA with more.
Is that I don't know. I'm like questioning.
Well, I think
that's the impression I get. Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's YA with, like, sex and abuse
older.
and trauma, and like that's it.
Aren't they meant to be like around 20 or something, like 18 to 20 or something like that?
Sorry, I just have to read this comment. I think it's hilarious. Someone said, there were times where I asked myself if Masses actually ever had sex. That's how bad the themes are.
That is a legitimate question, though.
Because their scenes kind of read like someone who got the idea of what sex is like from reading sex scenes in bad romance novels.
No. Has anybody read Laurel K. Hamilton? With all the sex.
I have this Adriana
had sex
sort of
when
moral
she started
objection.
writing it.
Is that why she wrote so many like sex scenes in Laurel K. Hamilton stuff? Because she was like, I'm all like
discovered
repressed.
sex and was like,
right. See, that's interesting because I know she's like polyamorous and all this other stuff now, but now she.
No, I'm pretty sure I read. I might be completely off base here, but I'm sure. So I read, or somebody told me, that she was like a virgin until like she was in her late 20s or something, and then she got in a relationship and finally had the sex and was like, I shall write all the sex.
Right. That's why we have all these like books with all this.
With all the sex.
Yep. Mm-hmm. She's just really excited. That's interesting. Though.
Oh, bless her.
What's funny about Mass? Is it Mass or Moss?
It's Mass technically, but everyone says Moss.
Mass's books it wasn't really the sex scenes that were like the what I hated about her writing. It was like the M dashes, and then like just the way that she would describe characters. Like she was referred to the guys as males all the time, like the males. It just felt weird. Like it didn't feel natural.
It doesn't bother me as much as some people. Like I know people were talking about like the mate thing and the males and the females and stuff. But I think Thomas said something similar in the chat that like I've seen trashier written fantasy, like, so it's not like this was like that bad to me, because I was like, I've seen some really badly written fantasy.
Yeah, but so it was like 80s gore novel, like they are mated and he will take her.
I feel like she grew up on urban fantasy novels because the things that were in there are very urban fantasy-esque, and like we were talking about with Laurel K. Hamilton, I grew up in the bosom of urban fantasy, so I'm like, this is fine. Like I've read this
that
a
makes
ton.
sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
when everybody's like, "Oh, the sex scenes were excessive," and I'm like, "You have no idea."
Yeah.
Yeah, and the like misogyny and the sexism and all this stuff like that. I'm used to that.
Until you read all the 90s and early noughties vampire novels, you have not.
You can't say anything. So yeah, it wasn't.
But I did feel like this one gave her like more empowerment as a female.
Yeah,
I felt like there was a much
Yeah,
more
it was a
like
big improvement.
joint relationship between the two of them. Like it wasn't him doing sex to her; it was like the two of them having sex. I mean,
I think the whole novel was
and
basically
by-
pointing out how inappropriate and wrong the relationship in the first novel was, which was good because the first novel was basically like every
It was
trashy
so icky.
Yeah. They're just formula
and she was basically like, no, let's deconstruct this and show you what it should be, which was nice and surprising from somebody whose novels we judged in the first Booktube SFF Awards and loathed with passion.
So bad. I was so impressed with how much I liked this one compared to her previous
that was
books
my
liked.
baseline.
Yeah,
wow.
I was just like, whoa, this. I literally said to Elizabeth, like, this feels like it's been written by a different author. Like, it does not feel like it's Sarah J. Maas compared to book one, compared to her other series. It feels like maybe someone else just wrote this and she put her name on it. I don't know.
But you know what it felt like? It was the Witches in that third Throne of Glass book, which was the bit that I loved.
Good bit, yeah. And then
all the rest was kind of garbage. Yeah.
Then, like, she was like, "Oh, let's write a book about that," and I was like, "Yes."
Yeah. So mixed opinions.
Yeah.
I loved it. So
I think the next one's going to be just as mixed.
Yeah, criticism.
Because I
don't even need to talk about. I don't even
You DNF.
Eleanor and I DNF'd it.
Yeah.
We both read it together and hated it.
And I quite like the first one, but this one,
I looked up a plot synopsis and decided I didn't want to carry on.
So with DNFing, did you guys not like the characters? Like, what was it about it that made you DNF it, or is it everything? Like,
Like
boring,
everything
wasn't
was
it?
so predictable, and I said to Eleanor, "Oh, this is going to happen," and then next page it happened, and then I would say, "This is going to happen," and next page it happened, and then I literally said to Eleanor the ending of the book, and then just like Google a
Read the end.
synopsis, and it was the ending of the book, and I was like, "No, I'm not going to read this."
so the plot is what you guys didn't like about it.
I mean, I never read
I mean, I
the
don't like any of it,
first
really,
Shadow and
but,
Bone. Did you read Shadow and Bone, Caitlin?
I
Did
read
you
the
read the
first
first
one. Yeah,
I read the first one and I was like, I'm not into this. And then someone said, oh, you must read like Six of Crows. And I quite enjoyed that. I think I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was quite a good sort
I
of
didn't like Six of
idea.
Crows, so I knew I wouldn't like this.
But this one,
I'm
I
actually
don't know,
really
I just
appalled
really-
right now, but I'm gonna keep quiet. Like, I'm like, I know previous conversations.
The knives will come out.
I'm like, listen, like,
Go for it. Go on.
See, I just, we're here on my channel. I love Lee Bardugo. Like, I worship the ground she walks
Oh, she's
on.
pointing it out. It's her
Like,
channel.
it's just right. Ultimately,
You're in my
I'm
house,
right.
so I'm right.
Yes.
No, but like, I think I'm trying to think of like the predictability. Like, I'm trying to sit back and be like, okay, listen to what they're saying and like see if you can get a point. I'm just like, no, I'm just like, I don't know. So I don't know if I get so engrossed in her stuff that I can't predict what's happening because I'm just like I don't know, because I'm like, I didn't predict anything. Am I stupid? Like,
No.
It was just like, so I don't know. But it's one of those moments where like when I hear Bardugo criticism, I'm just like, it rolls off my back because I'm like, I don't see where you see that, so okay, fine. Like, it's fine. I don't get offended really.
That's me with Sanderson too.
Yeah, so I think
a lot of it comes down to how to what degree it really matters to you. If a particular story is following a formula where you can sort of the outline, you kind of know the roadmap and where it's going.
I didn't know.
Like, I know that there
anything.
there are people these days, especially they just like, let me show off all the tropes that I know so I can point all this stuff out, and everyone is so like into that kind of aspect of it, like on TV tropes and being able to just take apart a story like it's an engine or something. And I think that's you can go a little too far with that. I think that sort of leads to superficial analysis and criticism too. Not to say it's never warranted either, but I can enjoy a story that is perfectly formulaic. For example, in the way that the Savage Song, in a lot of ways, it followed a template. if the execution at least brings me a certain degree of entertainment value. I don't expect high art from every bit of genre fiction that I read. I do have maybe it's unfair to so I have standards for this writer and standards for this one, and this kind I can enjoy as just potato chip reading. And so if it does what it does, and it's like the comparison to a bag of potato chips. Yeah, I mean you eat them because you like the potato chips, and you don't expect, oh my God, there was a piece of broccoli in here. What a wonderful shock! I like this even better. No, that would screw it up if you're like, what the hell is this doing here? So you kind of have that. It's a comfort zone sort of story, and so to the degree of which you like that, or no, I don't want to be able to predict things. I kind of want to not be able to see where things are going so much. We'll judge your tolerance for a book like this.
I didn't find it tropey though. In an argumentative, I feel like the people that didn't like it found it tropey, and the other half were like, "What tropes where?" So it's kind of like, right?
Yeah, I think they Caitlin, you've been a lot of really twisty turning.
Yeah, I think for me, I read a lot of epic fantasy, and so there's a lot more pages and a lot more happens, and I feel like it's quite a long book and not that much happened in it, or at least
that was a good thing.
Somebody
in the comments just called this "Baby's First Lives of Lockmora," and I'm like, I'm sorry, wait a minute.
This is my comparison.
This is better than Lives of Lockmora. That wasn't fun. That was
I love Lives of Lockmora.
I love
Lives of Lockmora is wonderful. So
amazing.
So I feel like 4, by the way.
I need to read the third one.
I need to read the second one.
Third one's my favorite.
I have it.
So of the people that loved Crooked Kingdom, such as myself, what is it? The characters? Is it the plot? What? Because I feel like from what I've heard in my own experience, I love the characters so much and the world so much. Kind of like Caitlin was talking about with Mistborn and the Cosmere stuff. That it's just it was just candy. There was stuff about the Grisha trilogy that I could be like. There was all these references that I just ate up. Yeah.
Well, I think that this is another situation a little bit where the Secret History, we had all of these characters and worlds that we already knew of. And so when I read Crooked Kingdom, I read the Grisha trilogy, so I already knew everything that happened. So the characters from the Grisha trilogy that popped up and the references that happen and talking about certain religious things that were happening in Crooked Kingdom, that has a direct correlation to the Grisha trilogy, and so it makes you like it that much better.
Yeah.
For me, with Crooked Kingdom, I didn't really like Six of Crows as much. I thought that it was really slow. The first 200 pages, nothing happens. So I had lower expectations going into Crooked Kingdom, and then I ended up really enjoying it because I got invested into the characters.
That's the thing with Six of Crows.
Nina is the best.
The whole book is Six of Crows exists to set up Crooked Kingdom, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of backstory and character. These are more character driven, I feel. There is action elements to it, but I feel like it's very much you have to love this crew. And if you don't love the crew, you're not going to like it because it's really about the crew.
But I didn't love them in the first one at all. I was bored by the first one, but the second one just got me.
I was the same as Elizabeth. I didn't like the first one, but the second one I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I love everything. So
I definitely feel like
I think my expectations were really bad with it, because when I read Six of Crows, everyone told me it was like Lives of Lockmora, so I went into it being if this isn't as good, I'm going to be pissed.
Nothing like it.
That's a cool thing to build up about any book.
The second one, I just lost it. I just got so angry. I was like,
You can't compare it to epic fantasy because it's it's not epic.
Right.
No,
it's what it's supposed to be.
Which is why it's upsetting to me that everyone in the comments is saying, isn't it meant to be like Lives of Lockmora? And I'm going, no, guys, it's not. Please don't think
a crew doing heists and cons is not original to Lives of Lockmora.
No. Yeah.
I think I was very middle of the road with this one. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I did enjoy it more than Crooked Kingdom. But it was probably, ironically, my least favorite read of this category. I did actually found A Court of Mist and Fury a little more entertaining, I guess.
I am really curious.
I'm with you on that.
We've talked about the expectations with both Akamath and this, and it seems like everyone went into Akamath expecting just garbage, and a lot of people went into Crooked Kingdom expecting something great because it'd been hyped so much. Not that Akamath wasn't
No,
hyped,
I
but
didn't
you know, like
expect it.
there was a different level. Like there's a lot of criticism against Sarah J. Maas, so like
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
have
that's true.
lower expectations even as a
I have
fan
to be
almost.
convinced to read it, I think.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah,
is
that is going to
what
color
kind
your
of-
opinion.
Yeah.
Mm.
The
That's true.
expectations thing kind of came into effect with this one.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It happened for me too. I went into this Savage Song with very low expectations, and therefore, you know,
surprised.
yeah, exactly. And so,
I was really worried with YA when the nominees got announced that I just wasn't going to like anything. And I was sat there thinking, oh, great, like this is going to be really fun. So Sarah J. Maas was a big surprise for me that I liked it. So
I was very pleased
Yeah.
with it.
it's great.
When I did not know Crooked Kingdom was hyped, I think I read it right when it came out, so it wasn't hyped, other than being the follow-up. And I just kind of went into it thinking, I kind of fancy that book that I read before and didn't think was very good, but somehow want a bit more of. And then I was like, and now my heart is hurting me.
Right? I love that.
Shall we go to the votes?
Yeah, let's vote.
I wish I could.
So, Sam, you.
Vicious. Not vicious, not vicious.
yeah, just pick a whole different book entirely.
It's not in this category, but I'm voting for it.
Yeah.
Write it.
We'll just make our own winner.
The Victoria Schwab book, whose name I'm now forgetting.
Savage Song.
Thank
Savage
you.
Song.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going for Akamath. Caitlin?
Akamath.
Elizabeth?
Crooked Kingdom.
Thomas?
A Savage Song for me.
Oh my
And
god, it's
Sam.
gonna be
Stunned. I'm stunned at this. Oh my god.
Your Crooked Kingdom, are you, Sam? Or...
Yeah, that's just crazy. Like, come on.
So
So
I
we've
mean-
got 2 Akamath, 2 Savage Song, and 2 Crooked Kingdom.
Oh, I was
Alright.
not. I was expecting
Wait,
it to be an Akamath.
that's not enough
Three-way
votes. Is that
split?
everybody?
No, Adriana
Adriana's
hasn't
not
voted.
voting.
Oh,
Adriana
Yeah.
Might have to do
type.
You may have to, yeah.
Yeah, both of us read.
That means
But
it's
she-
not going to
yeah,
be
it's
Akamath.
Connor,
No,
yeah.
it can't be her.
Tiebreaker, so you can't.
Yeah, she can't really.
Okay,
Connor,
comments.
you didn't
Please
read any.
just go for like your.
So
Shall
someone
I
has
tell you
used
the
their vote.
public vote?
Somebody
Yeah,
get a
who won the
hold of
public vote.
Chelsea and be like, Chelsea,
Oh,
you're
yes.
the fucking
Damn
Yeah,
it, Chelsea.
one. Like she, because I think she read everything, right?
Yeah.
I think so,
Like,
yeah.
she read a lot, yeah.
So maybe we'll say right now it's a tie, and then if she has a tie-breaking
We'll
vote,
put winners in the description.
I think that fits it's quite apt though that it's all
Yeah,
three
I
are
think-
tied because I
kinda
think
like
it's been
that.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
such an up and down category. I
Yeah.
think it works quite
There's
well.
really no clear winner.
The
They're
public
all
disagrees with you. Crooked
Okay.
Kingdom won by miles.
Thank God.
Public vote will have to
But I
decide.
think that's
Yeah.
because people get put off after they've read the first Sarah J. Maas. Oh, they refuse to read the first one and therefore can't read the second.
But people kind of like this first one because, like, I got lots of people being like, "Oh no, it's lovely, I loved it," and then people being like, "No, read the second one," and then you'll hate the first one
Right.
because
The first one got
Okay.
a lot of hype and was really well received by
Yeah.
a lot of people until
That was my
later.
first Sarah J. Maas book, so for me
Yeah.
it was quite. I never did the Throne of
Started on
Glass
a better
stuff.
series.
Okay, well,
Well, I think
Now
that,
it's
I think
novels.
now we're just speaking of, in terms of like people, who they choose to read. I think again we can have a much greater broadening of reading among young adults because not just these same best-selling writers every year. I understand they're beloved, but it's interesting to me that not a single one of the titles that were on our shortlist were on the Norton Award shortlist.
maybe
Except for
underrated.
Crooked Kingdom, I believe.
Kingdom,
Crooked Kingdom was, but there's this whole wide breadth and this great world of young adult science fiction and fantasy out there that different authors. So
I think the problem we
expand.
have is that people do
Crashed over.
vote for that, but not enough to make it onto the shortlist.
Mhm.
Like everyone that reads outside of like the big hyped books,
yeah, this is a
nominated
popular
stuff, but
vote,
not enough.
Norton is not a popular vote. Let's put that in
No,
mind. Like,
Yeah. That's the nature of
No,
popular
that's true.
votes, right? And you're going to get these, which we've talked about. I mean, everyone knows the nature of what popular votes are.
right.
So,
yeah. We did not select the shortlist, people. You do.
No.
right.
Like me.
Exactly.
That's right.
So
Although there
Crooked
might be a
Kingdom-
change, maybe there might be a category.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know.
Crooked Kingdom won. Who got
Right.
what got second?
Yeah, what got second? and
Okay.
popular?
They were very close actually. Second was Court of Mist and Fury, and third was Savage Song.
That was what I would expect from people,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
But it was a good chunk of votes between them. It was like double for Crooked Kingdom what the other two
From
are.
being the one to tally up what was nominated, I was certain that Crooked Kingdom was going to win the popular vote because it was nominated so much more than everything
Just like-
else.
Mhm.
I'll be back, guys. I'll be back
So
in a
much
sec. I think
more.
my daughter just fell out of bed. Hold on.
No, not be bad. Hey, you're dropping your kids. Well, it is a series that has a huge amount of goodwill out there. Among
Yeah.
people.
I like Lee Bardugo. I've met her. She's very nice.
She's lovely.
I like
If nothing else, this cover is bloody gorgeous.
Right.
Whereas the
It is a gorgeous
Aftermath
cover.
covers
Yeah,
are
I
just-
mean, this one's not so good. Blue?
Yeah.
No.
out.
So adult?
Yeah, I mean, we're down to our
Yes.
final category of
Dun,
best
dun,
non.
Dun-dun-dun-dun. Award show music.
Yeah. Reached the end. So our three nominees were The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin, A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab,
The Schwab.
Yes.
The Schwab,
The
and Nightwatch
Schwab.
Gambit by Yoon Ha Lee.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's do Gathering of Shadows because we've been talking about Schwab already.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's,
Mhm.
so we
Less
can do
love.
that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I don't like this series, really.
Yeah, I'm not.
I don't
I'm not
either.
It's
feeling it.
not a favorite of mine.
No.
Yeah.
But I liked this one more than the first one
Same.
because Alucard Emery. But I
She was
still didn't really care for it, and I find Lila Bard insufferable. I just can't. I just
Oh,
can't
she's
with
so
her.
obnoxious.
Oh,
Just
God.
no.
I'm so different. Like her
I
inner
can't believe
monologue.
she actually
under
said
Stop.
that I'm not like other
Three
girls.
times.
Yeah.
Three
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. See, I liked it actually less well than A Darker Shade of Magic.
Yeah, I liked A Darker Shade of Magic better
Yeah.
than
Because
A Gathering of Shadows.
But nothing happened in either of them. Like
Exactly.
nothing happened.
Yeah. There's nothing. I
there's
wish
so much
element in the second book.
yeah,
That's
yeah, it's
bad.
definitely you see, this is why I said that this Savage Song just moved at such a better clip, and and I thought the protagonists just seemed to have so much more personality. Again, even though they were kind of stock characters, and they were like, oh well, you have like the bad girl and the good guy, and all of that. Sticking to that formula, but it was just generally executed at a better level, and I feel like she is. I don't know. I mean, she's so popular and she seems so nice on Twitter, and she has a YouTube channel. And she seems like a lovely person. And then I read her books, and it's all just like 2.5, 3-star at best.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
She's an awesome person, though.
yeah,
She
and and she does. But it just sort of like I find her stories. She's fair to middling as a storyteller, but she's really, really popular. And so I think that as this series is trying for more and more of an epic approach and effect with each volume, I think it's less enjoyable. So
I even said this in my review, but I feel like a lot of it was filler. I don't even understand why it's a trilogy. It feels like it could be at most a duology.
Yes.
Yeah, was that? I think I was watching your review, Sam, when you said that you could have just taken like the entire book and put it as like 2 chapters in the end of
All
the first
you
one.
needed was the end when he the thing happens. I mean, we're
That's
in
what I mean,
spoiler
like-
territory, but
Why is nothing happening? Because there's so much that could happen. Like,
like,
what the hell
Exactly.
is going on over there? And
Yeah.
it's feeling like,
Always my
oh, look at
problem when
mine,
it
look
comes
at
to
me.
Schwab. It's like there's so many ideas in her books that I love, and then she just doesn't do anything.
I think
with
that's why it feels so frustrating while reading it, because it has
Yeah.
so much potential, but
Yeah.
I
it's
think
just
one
so
of the
many
things is-
things that you're like,
Just-
please do this. Oh, okay.
I don't know who her editor is, but why did they not send that book back and go, tell me this other story, please?
yeah.
Seriously.
Like, why was the whole second book like them just all moping for like pages, and then we have like 50 pages of a tournament that you don't actually get to see, and then
Which
you
would
have
have
the
been
ending
awesome.
that could have been tacked onto the first book.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
And like
Sure.
all these random extra
For me-
characters that I don't need to know about. I don't care.
I think the thing with Schwab is that like I went to YALLFest and Sam was in this panel or watched this panel with me, but she was talking about how she does her books and she always creates the world, and I think that's why we find her ideas like the premises of her books are very interesting. Like
Right.
it's really
Yeah.
cool that these people can move from different versions of the same place and all that stuff, and then she comes up with the characters. So I think it's the characters that I don't really love in her books, and that's why I don't end up enjoying them as much as
And then
some
the
other
plots
books.
like last, and you're just like, where's my plot though?
Yeah.
I think it's I like very character-driven fantasy stories. I like Robin Hobb. Hobb is very character-driven. So I think when the characters fall short for me is when I really don't like a book, because I have to be super invested in the character and believe in their story. And when I don't get that, I tend not to enjoy the book as much.
And especially in A Gathering of Shadows, we don't know anything really about any of the characters. Like, like Lila, I think there's like one line where it says like Lila's dad tried to sell her or something like that. But like other than that, you have no idea if she had a family.
Yeah, it's like she just wants to have her own pirate ship someday. But we already
It's
knew
like
that.
why do you want a pirate ship? Like I don't get it.
Because she wants to be
I would
different,
want a
Connor.
pirate ship, Connor. Like, come on.
Well, again, that was like the only aspect of her character that I thought was interesting in the first book, was that, instead of doing the cliche thing of, oh, but she really just wants to have a nice life, and no, she just wants to scale up as a thief. And I kind of thought, that's nice. It's realistic and believable. But then, you keep expecting, again, as the series goes on and tries to take on more things, it just doesn't follow through with ideas and introduces things and then just misses opportunities left and right, and plods along, and I'm just saying, why? Because this could be so lovely. And
then also with what's his name? What's the main character's name?
Kel.
Lila's the main character, people. Lila.
Right.
Well, the main male character. We don't know anything about him, and I don't understand I don't believe his place in the society, like where he doesn't remember anything from being a child, so you assume that he was taken to the castle when he was a baby, and I don't get why he doesn't have a better relationship with the king and queen. Like, it just doesn't make any sense, because their own kid has a good relationship with them, and him and Kel were together like all the time. So I don't know. It just doesn't seem.
It feels his character feels more contrived.
She likes to keep her characters in like perpetual angst, and I'm just like, I love angst. But like, I'm also like, can you guys stop? Like, I don't understand like why everyone life is so hard.
Yeah,
like, it's just...
if you're not in angst, you get stabbed through the heart, like, and then you get
literally
right.
Literally.
Adriana, what were your thoughts on A Gathering of Shadows?
I don't know. Like, for me, I had another pacing issue with this one, same as the Savage Song, because it just plodded along for hundreds and hundreds of pages. Then again, had that shit hit the fan ending. And for me, it was more of like a marketing mislead in general, because they're like, oh, there's going to be pirates. There's going to be this badass magical tournament, blah, blah, blah. But like that lasted like 30 pages. And then it just didn't seem very relevant to me. And just like, I always have problems with Lila's name?
Yeah.
As a character, because V. Schwab's like, oh, it's like she's gender fluid and she's all these things. I'm like, no, she's not.
No.
No.
I think
all of it was a marketing mislead for me.
Yeah, I've mentioned before in reviews about her books that I think following the author on Twitter in this case is kind of bad, even though I think she's lovely, because she always fiercely defends Lila, and I'm like, oh, because Lila's like a stand-in for you. Like, why are you so defensive of her? She's like, what's not original about a gender fluid thief? And I'm like, you never say that she. What?
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
Was that just a thing she said?
Just because you say it on Twitter, like.
Because she wants to wear trousers, like that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
That was the only mention of it, I think. I think that was the only mention of it in this book, where she was like, oh, sometimes I wear dresses and sometimes I wear pants. I'm like, lots of people do that.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean
pretty
anything.
sure that takes a little more than that to make you.
Like, if you. The Gathering of Shadows, the Dragon series, Mary Brennan.
Lady Trent.
Dragons. She wears trousers all the flipping time.
I know.
She doesn't suggest that she's non-binary. Like, that does not imply that, even in a society where skirts are absolutely the norm for women. Like, there are reasons.
I'm not trying to like discredit anyone's identity, but there's just no experience behind it. Like, you just can't feel that identity.
If she doesn't say it somehow or imply it or write it, like.
Exactly. Like, especially as someone who is non-binary, like, I feel nothing when I read Lila and how she's talking about how she wears pants and dresses. I'm like, cool. Like, V. Schwab, like, with this series, she like word of Gods it so much that interrupts my reading experience. Like I didn't hate this book. It sounds like I hated this book. I actually enjoyed it in that like potato chip kind of way, as Thomas was saying, but like that part of it rubs me the wrong way. And I feel like I know too much about what's happening behind the scenes that I can't really enjoy like the story at face value.
Oh, somebody's saying it's like the Dumbledore is gay thing.
Yes.
Just sort of after the fact, you just bring it up.
And you're trying to get kudos, and it's like,
you're ticking off a box for a diversity cookie.
Yeah,
I
like,
hate when people just, I'll include that.
But and it's not even like, you know, it's when she's doing it after the fact and she's saying like, oh, actually this, and everyone's like, wait, what? Like,
if it's not readable, like if you can't get that from the story, then it's not really there.
Right.
Like
the third book's out, right?
The whole trilogy's done.
Yeah.
Has anyone read it? Like, do we know if?
Nope.
I have it on my.
No, I'm sure.
I'm just going to put a plea out there for the judges next year. Don't vote for this.
Right.
Don't nominate it, the third one.
I don't want
Please.
it.
No. Please.
But I found it similar to what like Caitlin was saying about Crooked Kingdom. I found this one so predictable. Like I was reading it and Sarah Jane from the Book Live was reading it at the same time, and I was messaging her like, I bet this is gonna happen. And it's exactly what happened.
Yep.
And I was like, I bet you Kel's gonna get taken at the end, and it's like, oh look, like it's just like
what a surprise.
Shocker. Oh my gosh. You know, like it's just, and you just have to sit there and listen to Lila like bragging about herself being so different. Like I can't. But I do want a whole book about like Alucard and Rye. Are those the two?
Yeah,
they're the only two interesting characters, and I just want them to be off like sailing the oceans together.
Yeah,
Rye's a fun character.
Yeah,
I was so interested to know what had gone on there. I was like,
yeah. But see, that's what she does though. She like leaves these hints for you that you're like, oh, I want to know more about that, and then she just forgets
does
about
nothing.
it.
Really,
I almost would rather have like had all of that time where the characters were just moping about Rye like setting up the tournament, like learning how you got all these islands and stuff. Like I wanted to know more about that.
Seeing the tournament like at all, except for maybe 2 battles and stuff like being observed. It's just.
And I just think, this book was like the Goblet of Fire for this series.
And
like, it was like the Tri-Lizard
cool.
tournament, and each nation brought some people to compete.
Pretty much exactly what it was, honestly.
Yeah.
I feel like we've deconstructed this book and pretty much like crushed it under our boots.
We all know how we feel.
He likes it.
So I'm guessing we're not like really gonna vote much for this one. Much.
No.
Let's not talk. We haven't discussed the others yet.
Right.
That's true. That's a very good point.
Let's talk about Nine Fox, because I feel like Nine Fox is going to have a lot of polarizing opinions because the 2 Sams are on a team together, like, you know, but everyone else also has deep thoughts about Nine Fox.
Nine Fox.
Okay. Well, who wants to start? Elizabeth? Or...
I feel like Elizabeth wants to say something.
Elizabeth looks really keen.
Okay. All right, I'll just jump in. Because I'm the science fiction guy, and
I will fight you.
Nice.
I can't top that. I'm sorry. No, I think first off, there's quite a lot about this book that I thought was fantastic in terms of being a fresh approach to this kind of hard science fiction. It's establishing what a lot of science fiction pretends to do but never really manages to pull off, which is here's a completely alien society that goes about its business. This is a universe that is based on like mathematics rather than physics. And so that colors the entire perception of reality, and they have different forms of. So it's a whole different language that they use, just in terms of their understanding of things. But what was interesting was that the way in which Yoon-Ha Lee was able to sort of construct that and then put that around a story that, at the end of the day, is very much familiar territory in storytelling terms. As I said in my review, this is really an epic fantasy saga, right? In the most traditional sense. You've got the evil wizards. They've taken over the castle. They've put a big curse on everything. And the good guys are like, oh, shit, we have to go and take our castle back and lift the curse. That's the story of Nine Fox Gambit.
I didn't get that at all. I don't know what's
basic as
that.
I hate when people do that to sci-fi. They're like, if you reduce it to its bit parts, it's fantasy. It's like, fuck off, is it? It's science fiction.
No, it's what I'm saying in terms of the basic plot. but it approaches it with this entirely new language. And just for the benefit of the people who are like, I was just so completely confused with everything that was going on at all, I'd say, well, look, you can't strip it down to this, and then look at what is built on top of that. And then what's built on top of that is fascinating. And the relationship between Cheris and Jadao, I just loved sort of following how that unfolded. I don't think this is a perfect book. It didn't win the Nebula, and I thought, good, it shouldn't have. I don't think it should win the Hugo either. But I appreciate that it's getting recognized. Well, it is flawed, right? I mean, we have a whole host
Don't say that when Elizabeth is on the live stream.
We have a whole host of supporting characters that are not developed at all. They're just names. And then sometimes we'll see some, they'll go off and do something, and then we'll follow that character for a chapter. And I'm like, oh, we're going to start seeing some more characters, but then we don't ever again.
Because they die.
Yeah.
No,
and,
I love
and I'm like,
those
well,
characters.
but there's,
like they built the understanding that how the system was flawed. Like, because the whole thing about the Kel was that they followed the leader, that they had absolute obedience built into their psyche. Yes. And all those little individuals that we followed, especially the ones who were Kel, like bit soldiers, were just building that case that actually underneath there were loads more people who were individuals, who had feelings, who had likes and dislikes and strange little quirks to their characters. And I thought it was beautiful. Every time I saw one of them, I was like, those are the perfect pieces. Those were the pieces that were so good in Ancillary Justice series. Like all those little side characters who loved the crockery and were obsessive about who got what and would like throw shade by giving you the third best set of teacups. Like,
it was just
absolutely lived it through that.
So I suppose it's just that I wanted more of them. And when I saw them, I mean, I agree that they really did sort of put a lot of meat on the bones of what Yunhali was building up. And I guess that's why to see them for like a chapter or two or a passage or two, and then you have the one character from the Liege faction who is who are the ones who are just completely trying to tear this whole system down, but you only see like this one character through his correspondence, and I wanted more of that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good book that's like just shy of greatness, and also having been into Raven's stratagem and saying, I'm liking this one even better. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to jump in real quick when you were talking about the guy that you only really see him through the correspondence. Did you guys notice the like timestamps on the correspondence? Those are like one of my favorite parts of the whole book.
I freaking loved that guy.
Yeah.
Like whatever they're calling this day now, like whatever. I'm not
exactly.
I'm not keeping up.
It just
with
got funnier.
Which like reflected his whole attitude, like his whole faction's attitude towards all of this.
Yeah, it was so funny.
Yeah. So it's like, give me a little bit more of that sense of humor. But I love the whole science of it and the relationship between Jadao and Cheris. And then that ending was terrific. So,
If you like other characters, I highly recommend that you read the second book, The Raven Stratagem, which is out now.
Yeah.
So. Is it team opposition?
I just don't want it.
Yeah, I know. I was like, are we ready?
Like team opposition, fight for 9 boxes is going on in the chat right now. I'm like, I'm down.
I think my only thing that kind of made this not as good for me was that I didn't really understand anything that was happening for a little bit of time. It had a really high learning curve, which I'm not used to all the time. What is it? The Inda series has a really high learning curve too, and I had a hard time like enjoying that book as well. I mean, I did end up enjoying it, and I do like the concept. So it's a weird thing because I know if I reread Nine Fox Gambit, I would rate it a lot higher and enjoy it a lot my It's like one of those books you have to read twice.
Oh, what?
Oh, you okay?
Sorry, there was a spider on my floor. I will be right back.
Oh my god!
Crisis.
I thought you like knocked over a candle and something started burning.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well. Wait. We're hearing.
Oh wow!
He's killing it.
Get a glass. Get a glass.
Sad news.
If I was in the UK, I'd just be like, oh, somebody's freaking out. But like legit in America, I have no idea whether that was like something that might kill you.
Yeah, true.
Spider murderer.
I don't think in like the Pacific Northwest we really have a lot of like deadly spiders, but
I have no idea. I just know that things kill you in other places.
And yes, we do. We have wolf spiders and hobo spiders, both of which can kill you. That was not it, but it was the size of a quarter, and my flip flop just killed it. So
yeah,
good work, Sam. Good
well,
work.
on that note of murder, we should also talk about the opposition to 9 Fox Gambit.
Yeah.
Man, I just, I was not having fun with this, and I went in expecting it to be odd. I knew it was eccentric. I knew there was an incredibly high learning curve. I knew that I was not a huge science fiction. I like science fiction, but I don't read a ton of it, so I was like, get ready for this to be a slog. But I still had a really hard time, so much that I had to go back and reread sentences like 3 times, and I'm not that kind of person. So it was just not fun for me to not really know what was going on. I loved the character interactions. Like I love the 2, protagonists in the same body. Like all of that was great. But even when you're doing action scenes and people are dying, I don't know what's happening at all. And so I'm like, I can't feel this because I'm like, oh, your body's being shredded to pieces, but like how? And it was just like, I couldn't connect to any of it. And I wanted to, like, I appreciate what this novel does. And I appreciate how out there it is and how complex it is. Like as a writing craft thing, like I appreciate that. But from like an enjoyment standpoint, I'm like, I don't know what happened at all. And I know that that's kind of the point, but like I want to know a little bit of what happened, and like I really don't.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem I had with it too. I mean, I ended up like getting the concept, but it just felt really boring to me, and I think it's because I don't know. I didn't really feel
like
the
military to me.
Yeah, and I
don't
military.
like reading military stuff. Yeah, and I don't like that. So I was like,
literally a
this
war.
isn't good. Exactly.
I think I was expecting more character stuff. Like I knew going in that it was also going to be military, but I didn't expect it to be so military. I feel like it was 3/4 military and like a 1/4 character stuff, and I would have liked it to be like maybe more split to more character stuff, and I would have liked it more.
That's what I was just going to say.
Systems and regulated and
That
everything.
That kind of goes back to
point.
some of what I was saying about like there is this kind of vast wealth of potentially terrific supporting characters that didn't really get enough play, and I think would have benefited the book to have some of those supporting characters kind of built up more than they were.
I would have even liked more protagonist stuff. Like I don't even need the supporting cast. It was just like the protagonist stuff I loved so much that I found myself skimming almost to get to their conversations because those were great.
Yeah, the character moments were good when they were there.
I like the puzzling thing. I like it, the weirdness, and I think it is like you like it if you like it, and B, if you've read a lot of like weird spec fic, like not stuff where it's just explained. Like Brandon Sanderson, he sets out his magic things so well that you just, it's explained. You learn as the character learns. Whereas there's certain types of sci-fi authors who just throw you in and they just start talking. And Neil Stevenson, I just went to get the book because I was looking at it. It just suddenly sprung into my head. Anathem by Neil Stevenson.
Anathem is a good
really
one.
baffling. Pretty baffling, but it actually has a note at the beginning. Note to the reader: if you are accustomed to reading works of speculative fiction and enjoy puzzling things out on your own, skip this note. And the note goes on for like several pages, and it's got like a whole dictionary because it's so weird. Like what's going to happen is so weird, and if you're not used to that, and that terrified me so much the first time I read this book that I put it down and didn't pick it up again for a year. And then when I picked it up, I was fine because you just kind of float over the weirdness and let it your brain figure it out in context. But if you stop, think about it, and try and look it up and work it out, it ruins it. And I think you've got to have the right mindset going through to just pick it up by context.
Because the part of the expectation with hard science fiction is that it is a genre where you expect it to be all about explaining things, right? Here's Bob, the reason that the photon torpedoes work is blah blah. So that's what we're kind of used to, the approach in hard science fiction. And here we're thrown into, again, a completely different concept of science and mathematics and this calendrical system. And as at a certain point, you just kind of have to, like you said, Elizabeth, just kind of like start glossing over the jargon, just and saying, all right, I don't need to know like the whole schematic of all of this. All I really need to know is, okay, the bad thing that's happening is that the good guys need to take the fortress back, and there's this thing that's called calendrical rot, and it's bad, and it needs to be stopped. I get it. Okay, so I can just go from there, and
but
as long as
I love the puzzle. I love that feeling.
But then it is in the act of reading it as you go through it, and within the context of the narrative, then you start to at least kind of, rewiring your brain to kind of fit the mentality of the book. But at the same time, I'm not unsympathetic to like the two Samanthas who are, because I've read that kind of high learning curve sort of throw you in science fiction, in the deep end science fiction before in other books there, and particularly I'm thinking of one called The Quantum Thief from a few years ago by right.
See, Elizabeth just likes all these terrible.
So I guess I should.
but that's again that is another book that just like slams you.
You like those sorts of things. I feel like the moment this was announced as a book, it was for you. Yeah. Like it's an Elizabeth book. And when I know it's an Elizabeth book, I'm like, it's probably not a Caitlin book.
Ancillary Justice. I think Ancillary Justice at the end of the day is probably quite a bit more accessible.
It's much more accessible.
Yeah.
But
Quantum Thief. I think The Wind Up Girl you might consider it another example.
No, that was rubbish.
Yeah, but it's so I'm not unsympathetic to people just like it just was bewildering all the way through, and I didn't. And I'm like, fine, I get it.
No, I just think everybody's stupid. I obviously said sympathy. Like I get it. It's not for everybody. It's not the way everybody reads at all, and it's not going to appeal to loads of people. But I do think it was beautiful and wonderfully written. I thought the characters, for such a military book, like everybody's been saying, it was really military, and there's lots and lots of like technical, jargonistic and like action sequences. It was incredibly poignant and character driven at the same time. Like the little quiet moments of like Jadau's memories and Cheris like interacting with the servitors. Also, as somebody pointed out, we did a whole book for one cabbage joke at the end, which was bloody hilarious. If you didn't get it, then you missed it at the beginning. But
I love the servitors. They were just like they were like little puppies.
Happy Robot Pals! How can you not love Happy Robot Pals?
Yes, they were. I want one.
Yeah. And if you did love it, then you will love the second book. Because I went through it thinking I wasn't necessarily loving it, and then realized I loved it.
Yeah. So, but I think that even if this is not a book at the end of the day that you end up getting, I think that science fiction should be publishing these kinds of books. I mean, we need writers who are willing to sort of like, push envelopes, as it were, and try different things. And sometimes they'll work, and sometimes they'll really work. Sometimes they won't. But we need to kind of be breaking these formulas and putting them back together in new forms. So.
Just because you think it's going to be weird, and like lots of people have said, how they reacted badly with it and didn't like it or found it weird. Lots of people felt like that going in the Goodreads group, and then came out of it absolute like converts and fans. Yeah. So you don't know until you go in. And I know a lot of people have gone into this and found that they've got this whole new area of sci-fi and fantasy to like explore. So go for it. Try it.
I definitely, like I said, I definitely appreciate what it's doing, and it's a book that I'm not saying like, oh, it's trash. Like,
no,
I don't think it's trash.
It's not a bad book. It's
just not for me.
That's not your thing.
Yeah, it's just not my thing. And I think I had a little bit of disappointment because I was so expecting to love it. Like I was so expecting to. Everyone was like, "Just get through it." I know, and I was like, "Yay!" When it got nominated, I was like so excited, and then it just didn't hit. Like all these little jokes, I'm like, I didn't see any of the jokes, and like I knew that there were robots, but I'm like, I didn't get how they were cute. Like all these things that like I wanted to love, and I was like looking for actively, I just couldn't find, and it was. I think that led to me being like a little jaded about it too, because I was like, I wanted to love you and I don't.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I tried for like 100 pages to really get into it, and then I gave up about like page 150. I'm like, I can't. I don't like it. It's not for me. I tried though. I really did try.
It's just not.
And I have had that experience with other books where I know this is something that is really speaking to a lot of people, but it's just not hitting me. And
I know somebody else was on Team 9 Fox, which is Adriana, and she hasn't said anything yet.
But Connor is also right. If you have difficulty I did read it twice. Like I read it, closed the back cover, opened the front cover right back up, and started. Second time was much easier, flowed much more smoothly. for me. So, I mean, if you're like still open and willing to do that, fine. If you're not willing to do that, I won't insist you do it. But Elizabeth will insist you do it, but I will not.
No, we want to hear from Adriana.
Yeah, Adriana.
Anyway, but
I mean, I feel like most of what I wanted to say has been said already. So,
no, you'll say it better.
Like, sprout a bit more love. I feel like we need to end on a high.
It is like, it is a complex world, but I feel like it's not an unknowable world. And there's a steep learning curve, but it's not impossible. And that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. And just because you can't understand something or picture something doesn't mean it's not real or that it doesn't affect you. Like there are hundreds of things happening in our world that we can't see physically or maybe even understand or parse through, but it affects us in a very real way. So that's why I connected with it, because I disagree. I think it's 3/4 character driven, 1/4 military. There's hardly any battles. There's talk about technology and being in a command center and all that, but I disagree. I think it's mostly character driven, and it hones in on those very human things, like calendrical rot. Like it's not something we've experienced or that we can understand or that we can even see, but like it's something we all understand on some level, because it's about how this system only works and this technology only works because everybody believes and acts and practices the same thing. And when there are people who dissent from that, like everything goes to hell. And like, so I think everybody feels that on some level. Like everyone feels like, well, if you don't do what I do, if you don't feel what I feel, like this system's not going to work. But the fact is that it can work. That's really what it is about. And I feel like all the characters, they have that one human thing. Like Kel Cheris loves dramas, and like she's like with the servitors, and Jadeo loves strategy games and card games. And there's like a character in the second book who like just loves watering his green onion. Like there's like all these little like human things, and like that's what I feel about it. I think it's an important story, and it is difficult, but I'm with Thomas. Like my mind just sort of skips over the part I don't understand at the very beginning, because if it's important, it's going to come back again. And so those important things do come back again. I feel like if you're open to them and you read the first book and you read the second book, like it's just amazing to me that like now I have this idea, this understanding of this society, and like these things that used to be just random collections of syllables that meant nothing to me, like now they mean something to me. Like that's what Yoon Ha Lee does in this series. Like, I think it's important. Like you can dislike it, you can say it's not for you, but I also think like it's also not productive to say like you shouldn't read this book that's by this trans POC author who's doing amazing things and has an amazing voice and things that are worth saying. So I loved it. I love book one. I love book two. I don't care what y'all think.
No, but I think I agree with what like Elizabeth and what Adriana was saying. Adriana, that was beautiful, by the way. So that was good. Everybody loved that. But like, yeah, I think that even though I didn't like it, I think people should still read it and give it a chance, because you could love it. Like there's you can't predict if you are going to love or hate this book. Like, and not even like hate, what's behind it, but just like not get it. Like I don't think there's been any indicator between even any of us, like who really was going to get it and who wasn't. And I really like I said, I appreciate what it was like, how different it is and how like completely new and like unlike anything else it is. But so even though I didn't like it, I still think people should try to give it a shot and not.
I can definitely see why people like it. It's just not my book. Like in terms of what I like in style and story. The personal preference.
I just wanted to love it.
I know.
Well, I do agree on the people side of things. Like it's the people side of why rebellions happen. It's breaking out from under a dictatorship, and it's interesting seeing how messy that is. Because like Star Wars is just drama. Like with a rebellion and it's fun and like there's battles but it's fun, and this is like there's little individual people and their lives are gonna get ruined.
It's like Rogue One, like you have a very you have like a smaller scope, and I do appreciate that part of it, but I just wish
because the whole sort of the moral core of the story is it was Jadao really insane. Because again, like his whole infamy is based on he won every single battle that he was thrown into, and including that one time where in order to win it, he slaughtered his own army at the same time deliberately.
Right.
Yeah.
And so but we learn as the story's unfolding through Cheris, we start learning a bit more and understanding a bit more about his past and his whole method of decision making, because that's, with him inside her mind and them sharing the mind, she is learning on the fly how to be this, like she's raised to general just like that. And so she's learning his whole thought process of command. And that I think is that core relationship that really makes this work from a character level. So I do think on that regard, as in terms of the technical aspect, when you get past the jargon, because the jargon is there to buffalo you in the first few chapters, and you can very easily miss that central character relationship there and the whole moral core of it. If you're still going like, oh God, what do these words mean, and what's happening? But I think that that is a deliberate challenge Yoon-Ha Lee set up in the narrative. It's sort of like, how we're going to see how adaptable people are to, and if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work, and that's valid. But I do like to see science fiction novels that really try to shatter things, and so.
On that note, let's talk Obelisk Gate, because I am getting sad about continuing to talk about a book that I didn't really like, and it makes me really sad.
Well, it just means we're passionate readers.
It's good to have the diversity of opinion.
Yeah.
Correct.
So let's do Obelisk Gate and what we felt, because I feel like this is going to be less contentious, because I feel like this one's actually pretty across the board. Yeah, well received. And I think it had a similar note of like rebellion, oppression, all this stuff, but I felt way more connected to it. It had the same elements of being thrown in, in the deep end in the first book, where you're just like, what is going on? I mean, I had that moment. So I think it had a lot of the similar elements, but I feel like it's a little better received. Is it because it's fantasy? Maybe. Like fantasy is just more well received right now, currently.
It's almost a weird mix of fantasy and sci-fi, though. Like there's definitely some sci-fi elements.
Yeah. That kind of sci-fi.
But it's not explained because they don't understand it either. They're like until much, much, much later in the book where they start to like get
put things together.
Yeah, they don't know, so we don't need to know. So it's like it happens because magic.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas
and they call it magic, and like I loved so many things that this series is doing, and it makes me happy.
It's been a while since I read it, so I have my review open in another tab.
I thought it was beautifully written. I think the whole series is just astonishingly well crafted. But I
doing really
have the unpopular opinion that I did not love this one as much as the first one.
Nor did I.
love this one more.
But I still really enjoyed this one.
I was flipped. I was a little bit like this on 5th season, but this one I was like, oh my God, I need book 3.
Yeah.
I think the reason that's for me is that I think the 5th season had a prequel feeling to me. Like I felt like after I finished the first book, I was like, okay, well now the story's actually gonna start. Like
it's very much the setup.
Yeah, we got the backstory.
And then of course 5th season has that whole like, the big reveal, which is which you don't have in Obelisk Gate.
Right.
I kind of love that because I had it in my head as like the radio announcer, like end of the episode kind of thing. And have you heard of something? I will leave it ... in case you haven't read it.
But yeah, I definitely like. There's so many things. I love how female focused this series is. Like it's all lady power, Valkyries riding into battle, which makes me just so happy. I love the family stuff. I love the found family stuff. I love the polyamory. I love like the mother thing, even though that usually isn't a thing that I usually get into. But the fact that like Asun in book 2 is so traumatized by like all of her kids dying. And she like will wreck it if like anybody I mean, it's just like it's so powerful feeling, and I really like about the second book is you kind of really go into her trauma that you heard about in the first book, because you like there's all this stuff that happened in the first book that she can't really focus on in the first book, and in this book you see all the ramifications of that, and like the PTSD and all of the like systematic oppression and all the effects of that. So I really like man, it just got me. Like
it seriously deals with a lot of issues, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I think what I really appreciate about the Obelisk Gate is that it follows on naturally from the 5th season, but it is its own book, very much because the 5th season has to again just establish the world, the stillness. It has to establish the history of the seasons. It really kind of it's doing a lot of heavy lifting, and then but it does that, and, while at the same time allowing its own story to unfold, and with the the Obelisk Gate, now that we have all of that information, we now get to have a much more intimate and personal story. So whereas, you know, the 5th season was this sprawling kind of continent-spanning epic, you know, just taking place in multiple timelines and all of that, now we get to have a much tighter and very, very personal story. And we see this, you know, these folks trying to survive and on one-on-one, you know, intimate relationship levels. And it feels... Well, it's about, you know, how personal Apocalypse is, right? I mean, it's like it talks about, you know, stakes always have to be personal. You always have to make it personal to the protagonist in a story. You know, if you just have, oh well, you know, if we don't do the thing, the world will, and that's too abstract. It's too impersonal. I mean, but what does something ultimately mean to the protagonist? How will they be affected? So you have, you know, Essen searching for her daughter, and then you have, you know, and then we finally get to meet the daughter and see like what she's doing and where she's going, and this strange, you know, kind of relationship with the father, who is probably, you know, believes he's doing the right thing, although he's not, you know, altogether a good guy in a lot of ways. But we see now what this is really meaning to these. Everything that's unfolding is happening to these characters on a very personal level, much more. And I think that's really what makes this book like stand on its own, as well as being a great sequel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I love about this series in general, is that it makes the apocalypse a personal thing. Like, it makes you rethink what apocalypse means. Like, a lot of people think it just means the end of the world, but it really means an end to a way of life. And that's what the first book is exploring. It's exploring this character who's going through several apocalypses, different changes, and going through all these stages in their life where they're literally a different person and living to learn a different way. And that's also continued on in the second book. So that's what I like, is that it makes the apocalypse a very personal, like, tangible thing that we can understand in that way.
And it really explores just human nature and how people react to different situations. I mean, even just how people's backgrounds affect how they react in very traumatic situations. I really like that aspect of the series.
Yeah, I talked about that, and I just did my review for the Obelisk Gate, and I talked about that. I talked about colonization and how it internalizes in the people who are colonized, and how they then use those devices of violence against their own and continue the work of the colonizer. So it's very much, you know, suffering and trauma. That's why it's passed on to the next generation. I feel like that's explored in this story as well.
I did love that in book 2 when you saw what she'd done exactly the same thing to her daughter.
Yeah, and her daughter realizing that. And realizing why her mother was doing the things that she did, and like how it was wrong.
And like, this is why I hate my mom. And like, my mom was made in this setting, and how.
But also the exploring, like, that there can be different types of mother. Just be having a character who is allowed to be a good character and a bad mother and a good mother. Like, you don't get that a lot in fiction. Like, motherhood tends to be the end of a character's line, like, it's the end of the story, and then they got married and lived happily ever after and had babies, and she did nothing else except have babies, or it's like the kids are somewhere else. But this was like, there were children, the fact that they were there, she was present, she had different attitudes towards it, she wasn't sure, she was happy, and, you know, it was just great. It was like, you don't get enough of that.
I also like how everything was kind of morally gray in this series. Like, I mean, yes, there are evil characters, that pretty much everybody has done shitty things, and they've done some good things, and like that. I just like how nothing's quite so cut and dry.
Yeah, they're definitely not static characters. Like, even, what's his name, Shafa or whatever, like, you see some of his, and he, like, I hated him in the first book, obviously, and then you get this stuff with him in the second book that you're like, I still hate you, but like
that's
what is going on?
Oh
my God. So so it kind of, you don't really have a full-blown antagonist in here, like, or a villain, really. I mean, you have antagonists, but you don't have like villains, because it's like, who's the villain in the situation? Everything sucks. Like, but I loved everything about it.
I kind of liked it because the villain is like us, basically. It's our society with progress and obsession and space and science, and like, and that was really good. Like, the reflection it gave back is that's who the villain is.
Although it's
people are the villains to people,
right?
Although it's kind of, I kind of wonder about they talk about Father Earth a lot. I mean, I don't want to get into spoilers, but that's ends up being an important thing in this book. So I wonder is that really like a deity, or is that something that
I like that too? Yeah.
Is that is it like an old computer or something causing all these? Like, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, Earth as a computer just makes me think of.
Yeah, kind of like all the science fiction-y stuff that's been sort of lurking in the subtext comes a bit more to the fore. We're starting to get a few more hints in this one, and but I like how she's just sort of piecing that out a little, and letting us make our own minds up.
Yeah, it's just a really great journey. Like I've just really enjoyed just sitting with it, and like I think about it for a long time after, and like I'm just waiting for that final book. Like it's just gonna destroy me, and I'm just so excited. Like so, and I usually don't look forward to finales, and I'm just like, this one I don't think is gonna disappoint me. So
I hope not. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty dang epic.
Yeah. I know that there was one person who didn't really love this. She's been very quiet. Eleanor, do you want to talk about your feelings?
Well, I didn't read all the books because I started Nine Fox, and I've got a feeling that I would like to try that one another time. I just wasn't in the right mood for it, I think. And for me, if I'm not in the right mood and I start reading it, it can really ruin the book. So I just put that one down. So I can't comment on that one. I liked fifth season better, but I didn't love that either. So I don't know. It just wasn't. I wasn't feeling it.
Fair. That's a fair comment.
Yeah, I don't want to comment too much because I'm not like voting, but yeah,
it's not exactly like a dramatic and like engaging storyline. Like it's pretty damn slow, and it's
felt like
the second person is weird.
The first one really like.
The second person is weird.
I just felt like it didn't need. I don't want to spoil things if people haven't read the first. Well, I'm assuming most people have read I don't know, but I mean, I know you guys have. But like the first one, I didn't feel like we needed this surprise that it ended up that the character was the same person. I don't know.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't read the books and you're watching the live show, that's your fault. I'm just gonna say that right now. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I just found that a little bit annoying.
It's fair.
Yeah, it is sometimes hard to avoid. Like, oops. So.
I think that's what made it feel like a prequel to me.
I liked that.
I really liked it too.
I
loved it.
Like Adriana said, it was the end of herself each time. It was like apocalyptic changes in her life, and then literally apocalypse.
Yeah, that's I think kind of why it worked for me, because it wasn't just this gimmicky thing she was doing as a little narrative trick. It was these really were phases in Essence life, and that came to cataclysmic ends, and she had them. And it completely redefined what she needed to do to survive. And so
and those
and it was finessed very well.
Yeah, and those things worked as like their own distinct perspective, because she really was a different person at each of those stages in her life.
Yeah,
and I feel like we can all look back on our lives and be like, I don't remember being that person. I remember being that person, and like there is a disconnect. I feel like a dysphoria, at least I feel, with my past, where I'm like, I was that person, but I'm not that person anymore. And that perspective is totally separate from this. So it didn't feel like a gimmick to me, because those literally are three different perspectives, three totally different perspectives.
And I think the Asun, like, really, I don't know, makes that more concrete when she meets back up with someone and she, like, that knew her from before.
Yes.
Try to call her the name that she went by back then, and she's like, no, I'm not that person anymore. I'm Asun now.
Right.
I love that relationship completely. Like,
yeah, me too.
Like, oh my god.
It developed so well.
Yeah.
And I like the ending thing, but again, it was like that pattern with the past affecting the present. They're different people, but you can't forget that the past happened, because what happened will absolutely come back and bite you in the ass. That's why the present is happening, and it's so interesting because that tangling of the three storylines, and then the past of the Earth, and then present of the Earth. I just freaking loved it.
Yeah, there's that idea that the past is like a living thing in itself. Like, the past is always happening in the present because we remember it and we're responding to it. That's definitely in the series for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I get a feeling I know which one's going to win here. Shall we vote?
Yes,
indeed.
Okay, so I'll go down the list. So Sam?
Which one?
Oh,
Obelisk Gate, definitely.
Obelisk Gate. Okay, Connor,
Obelisk Gate.
Adriana.
Obelisk Gate. I just want to say though that if N.K. Jemisin was not on this list, Nine Fox would be my winner.
Yeah,
Caitlin,
sure.
Obelisk Gate.
Elizabeth,
Nine Fox.
Thomas.
Okay, part of me on the one hand, is like, I know, here I go. No,
It doesn't really matter.
Well, we gave it, I was thinking, well, we gave it
No
to
offense.
the 5th season last year, and so we have like the same thing, so part of me was kind of hoping I'd be able to give it to Nine Fox this year. So it was nearly a photo finish, but I do have to say, objectively, I think Obelisk Gate is more successful as a complete novel, so I'm going to have to go with Obelisk Gate.
And Sam?
Obelisk Gate.
Yeah, that's pretty much nearly Elizabeth.
Oh yeah.
And
Hey,
what was the popular vote?
I will tell you now. The popular vote was, shockingly enough, Obelisk Gate by miles. So
We're on par with the viewers.
Woo!
Well, you went for adorable Chirons, Elizabeth.
yeah, I'm in the calendrical heresy. I'll leave the Italians. They have it. You can pick your thingy, your faction.
Yeah,
There's like a quiz.
I saw
And,
people doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, which did you
I'm
get?
recruiting my little legion of Leos.
Oh, you got Lioge as well.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I did too.
So
we're
now
going
that
to be
we're-
the heretics together.
now that we're good with our, everyone's had gotten their awards for the most part, except for YA, which is just sitting there in like a stalemate. But
Isn't that
we do have some thoughts to conclude, hopefully, a little bit since this has been a long live show, but some thoughts about what people were saying when the shortlist came out. There's multiple different authors that were repeated in different categories, and we got a lot of complaints about people saying that they didn't like this shortlist and that it wasn't varied enough, and they were expecting new and different things. And like Elizabeth said earlier, you guys picked it.
Yeah.
So like we had nothing to do with this. So
Trust
yes,
me, a
we
lot
were
of ones
also
I
having
voted
similar
for
thoughts.
didn't come up.
Yeah, we were wanting to see different things. So we were going to talk briefly about some of us, if you have ideas for things we would have liked to have seen in various categories. Try to keep it brief, like a minute to describe your stuff. But, because we can't go on forever. There's a ton of things that could have made these lists. But kind of talking about that and things maybe like editor's choice that we would have liked to seen, judges' picks on these lists instead. So anyone have any thoughts anywhere? Jump in.
Odyssey.
thoughts?
For the graphic novel.
Yeah, Odyssey 2,
Yeah.
I think, would have been. And I thought it had a lot of very important things to say about.
Yeah.
It would have been a nice contrast to the Trials of Apollo, because there's a lot to say about rape, especially in classical mythology, but also just generally in culture. And also, it's bloody gorgeous. So, it's nothing to do with. It's almost nothing to do with the first volume. It's so different, and it's powerfully amazing. And that is what I think we should have had.
I would have liked, for a graphic novel, if we're talking graphic novel, I'm a big fan of Wicked and the Divine. I would have liked to see that represented. I know that's a polarizing one too. I feel like a lot of the graphic novels are
That
really
was
polarizing.
nominated quite a bit.
Yeah, I feel like it
onto
almost
the
made
shortlist.
it. I would have liked to have seen that instead of Saga, because I feel like it's doing cooler stuff. I like what it's doing more than what Saga's doing currently. So,
Yeah.
anyone have I know a lot of you read some short work stuff. Do you guys want to talk about things you would have rather have seen?
So much short.
I didn't, and I didn't vote in the category this year, but what I did read of short fiction last year, I mean, if we had to have a Tor.com novella on the ballot, I would have loved, just about anything, the Ballad of Black Tom, The Dream Quest of Velvet Bow, Taste of Honey, Runtime.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, Runtime was, so lots of stuff from, the Tor.com factory that I would have loved.
Taste of Honey was very close, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sad that one didn't
Alright.
get in. And a bunch of stuff from Uncanny Magazine
Oh, okay.
as well, which won several awards.
Okay, because I was going to say, I have since read the Seasons of Glass and Iron by Amal El-Matar, which has won the I think the Nebula and the Locus Award just now at Short Fiction, and if that is from the Starlit Wood anthology, but it's also from Uncanny. It's on Uncanny's website. You can search it, and it's freaking beautiful. It really is. And so a lot of stuff. I put like a list of links to like all of like the Nebula finalists, in the Goodreads group, and I know that some people went through those and read some things. So, I did what I could. But also, young adults, I'm a big, Arabelle of Mars partisan.
I still need to read that because I've been wanting to. It's been winning stuff.
Just the funnest thing. And Norton winner, so I feel vindicated. Very proud of it. He gave the most heartbreaking speech at the Nortons because his wife has just passed away.
Oh,
yeah.
no, I didn't know that.
For you.
He was such a sweet man.
Yeah, he was so excited that y'all are at
a BEA last year. Yeah.
But very, very deserving winner for that. So if you have, it's just heaps of fun. Heaps of fun. And sequel, I believe, is out this month. And otherwise, I'm just, hooray for everybody participating, every year like they do. So,
I would have liked to see Becky Chambers. I feel like she
yes
on our list yet, and I really like to see Becky Chambers get on.
I'm really surprised too because I feel like she's pretty popular on BookTube. Like,
it's just because her books come out in weird, different times, so we get them way before you do, and then.
I know, which makes it tricky, but
so would Long Way to a Small Independent been nominated this year, or would that have still been Closed in Common Orbit?
Yeah, it would have had to be Closed in Common Orbit.
Did that get decent votes among the public vote?
It got some. It definitely got like some, but it was not a contender.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah,
which is a shame. So I'd like her.
It is also the case that
I mean obviously I'd like Robin Hobb.
Yeah,
I
could never too much. I will never catch up.
I really wanted Greatcoats, but it's like still kind of like not unpopular, just kind of underrated.
I plan on reading that. Yeah, hopefully. We can hype it because that sounds amazing. That appeals to me on a lot of levels.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I'm like I'm halfway done with the last book, and I'm like.
I'm wondering if you're. Oh, sorry, Thomas.
I was just going to say, getting back to Becky Chambers, I think there's also the case that she, I think, is getting quite a bit more push in the UK than here. I mean, here in the States, her books are coming out, and they're like little trade paperback originals, but they're not like it doesn't seem like they're the priority items from Voyager when they come out.
They're not.
Yeah, they're not like really putting them out. Like when somebody like Tora Del Rey gets behind a book, it's like bam, right? And you can't. And it's like, oh well, here to I open an envelope and okay, this came in at last. So it's not. It doesn't.
Hoddes's digital marketing team just won the Bookseller Award for best marketing in the UK. So, and they do good things. Well done, Fleur.
So I think like Becky Chambers' popularity and fandom really seems to be like very much a word of mouth thing because it's certainly not because like she's getting the the best-selling, here's the superstar writer push from, her imprint here. I don't think.
I wonder if some of it too is like a cover thing because I prefer the UK covers for her stuff. The American covers give this appearance of like, it looks more like almost hokey, not hokey. I'm trying to think of like the word.
They look like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's not really what it is.
It's like they're trying to sell the whimsy of it, whereas the UK editions look literary.
And I feel like they are more literary. Like I feel like they have that quality to it, and less of like the eccentric fun. Even though there is some of that too, but they don't match. I feel like, and that's why maybe they aren't getting picked up by the people who would love them because they're not matching the.
There's something about them that's visually off-putting compared to the UK editions.
Oh, I know one that should have been in it. After Atlas by Emma Newman.
That was the other one I was going to say.
Oh my heart, that book. That is so good.
I haven't read it yet, by the way. I was just
I've been seeing her on everything.
I'm guessing that one should have been on that. Because the other thing I'd say is also, like, I love Emma Newman's other series, the Split Worlds one, so I'd have been really happy if that made
like
it.
That, but
I voted for that. Well, I've read Planetfall, so I know what her
there you go. It's like that.
Yeah, so I like that too. So, yeah, Emma Newman would be great. Just like a few more people that I like would be great. Like, let's just get some people that I like, please.
For YA, I would have liked to have seen Susan Dennard on there for her Witchlands. I don't know which one it would have been. I think Truth Witch.
I think that was the problem.
That was really quite close.
Vote was a bit split because we didn't know which one was. Nobody knew, and it split the vote.
I would have preferred her to Victoria Schwab. Honestly, I think that would have been more well deserved.
I would have liked Sabata here on there. I think.
I'm so surprised that she didn't actually make one of the top ones.
Did she
I would have liked Rashni Tashi too.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
I was going. Well, actually, Elizabeth, did she do? Gosh,
Who?
Sabak Tahir, did she?
I have no idea.
No. Okay. I thought you had all
That's
this
a
stuff
little.
brilliantly
I
memorized.
don't think she
Wow.
did that well, Thomas.
Yeah. Well, you're our tallier. So.
for our middle grade people, I know we have a couple people that read a lot more middle grade. What would you guys have liked to have seen, Adriana? I know you read a lot of like more not always mainstream stuff, so I was excited to see some stuff.
I know. I would have liked to see, I talk about it a lot on my channel, Journey to Magical North by Claire Fayers. It just came out last year. And it's I don't know, it's like basically it's called the Accidental Pirates series, and that's pretty much like everything you need to know. Like these two kids, they're orphans and they're like running away from like an abusive home, and they get like picked up by these pirates and they go on this crazy adventure. Like that's literally everything you need to know. But it's like so wonderful. It's beautifully written. It's about like placelessness and wanting to belong and figuring out who you are. Like that would have been amazing. And the sequel, Journey to Dragon Island, just came out too, so just saying. And the other one I would have liked to see was Foxheart by Claire Legrand. That was like,
oh, I heard of that.
That's her latest like high fantasy middle grade that she just put out last year, and you don't really get to see a lot of like quality middle grade high fantasy. I think it's a standalone too, so I haven't read it yet, but I've heard really good things about it. It's about like a thief who like has the choice between like staying in her town and just like being comfortable or like going on an incredible magical adventure. So those are two that like I was personally pulling for.
The comments are going so fast, I can't read them.
Too Like the Lightning has come up several times.
I've seen it a couple of times. I haven't read
Which,
it yet,
given that it's in the Hugo nominations, makes sense.
Yeah.
So we do
that next week.
Need to wrap this up a little bit, but I did want to
Yes.
discuss how the fact that we talked about kind of judge's choice, editor's choice, that we floated around the idea of having that as a category for next year, as far as like, so that maybe there could be some variety within the choices, and people could get the popular stuff as well as maybe some lesser known things potentially in there. So we will open that up in the Goodreads group, obviously, so people can kind of comment on their thoughts on that, but that's obviously a potential thing. Also having it so that two books by the same author cannot end up in the same category.
That's a definite.
That's definitely happening.
We're definitely going for that.
Yeah.
We talked about classics, didn't we, as well? Did we talk about classics or going?
I really
back?
like the idea of that.
Yeah, we
That's
have
the
those
option.
too.
See how popular it is.
We have a lot of things that we're kind of percolating and kind of deciding on. So we'll definitely leave that in the Goodreads group for you guys to comment as well, just to give some variety to the list, because there was a lot of discussion this year about the lack of variety, which we hear you and we know. And you guys
we received
not
and
us.
understood.
We had to read them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's
So
true.
like, don't. Yeah. We know.
Yeah.
We suffer.
Keep us on our toes.
I read everything, guys. I read it all.
So yeah.
That's heroic, Caitlin.
It is.
Thanks, guys.
So that is it for this year's. This is the closing of the 2017 award show season.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining us, and thank you all to the wonderful judges that we, have really good discussions the entire time, and everything on the Goodreads group and everything else. So
Yes. And Chelsea, who is not here. But
and Chelsea,
yeah,
who we
Here in
No, you're here
Yeah.
in spirits. Yes.
So
hovering around. Yes.
so
Like a ghost.
she's not dead, by the way.
no, she's just not
Very
perfect.
much alive.
Yeah. But thank you all for joining us. So I am Sam. You're on my channel here. Thoughts
Thanks
on
for
Tones.
hosting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you.
And then I'm giving an outro to all of you as well. So goodbye to Adriana,
Bye.
Connor,
See ya.
Elena,
Bye.
Elizabeth,
Goodbye.
Caitlin,
Bye.
Sam,
Bye.
and Thomas.
See you on book 2.
And everybody will be linked down below as well. So you can check out their channels, which you should all do. Why haven't you yet? Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.